But backgammon, like life, is like 30% luck. So it's like a metaphor. Because there is a lot of luck.
Out of five, anybody could win.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
But he played 3 out of 5. Of 5, the better player is going to win.
Of course.
Patrick Bet David, May 22nd.
Oh my gosh! So he just said it's May 22nd. I don't know when this is going to air. So who's going to win the presidential race and why?
Who's going to win the presidential race and why? I think right now, if it ended today, right? If it ended today and you looked at the states, Wisconsin, Biden has. You can go through the others. Trump has a big lead, I believe, in Arizona and another state by 11 points, 50-39. He's got a 3 to an 11-point lead on the 6 states that matter. They're not even looking at North Carolina right now. They're like, no, it's going to be his. It's red. We don't even want to report it as a battleground. No, not even reporting it. So if it ends today, it's him that's going to win it. However, it's not ending today. The amount of gamification that could happen between now and November 5th, it's endless. Gamification, manipulation, you call it. There's a lot of things you can do. So for me, there's a part of me where on the left side of my shoulder, it's a guy that says, future looks bright. It's going to be great. We're going to take over. It's going to be awesome. America's going to be the greatest country in the world and everything's going to be okay, right? Then there's another guy on this side that's super paranoid. But what if?
But why would they be paranoid? It's not like they're going to like unleash a lab-grown virus on the world or like
they would never do that.
Provoke race riots and burn down your cities. Like I don't think they wouldn't go that far.
Why would they do such a thing? They're unifiers. They're not trying to divide. You know that, Tucker. You're being a little bit too speculative.
I get cynical.
Yeah.
So I think what you're saying is, if it plays out as elections are supposed to play out on the basis of what the population wants, then Trump has a big advantage. Mm-hmm. But you are open to the possibility that there will be some sort of manipulation of the country.
Oh, there's no question. Only the paranoid survive. And there's never been a time where we need to be paranoid about what could happen the next few months. Never. All of a sudden, you show up saying you want to debate June 27th. I debated him 2 times and I beat him 2 times. You want it? Come on, tough guy, June 27th. And then you read the details. Mike's going to go off the moment time's up. 2, 0 audience. Why are we doing 0 audience? Well, we're just going back to the way it was with Nixon and Kennedy. And then the next day, 50 articles come out. We're becoming traditional on how this whole thing about debate on TV started with Nixon and Kennedy with no audience. That's the right way to do it so the audience can decide for themselves who the better debater is. But listen, the last time we did without an audience was in 1960, whatever the timeline was with those two. We've always had an audience. The audience said, well, you guys got to keep it down. But they know what's going to happen where he's going to have his moments where he says, because you'd be in jail. And they're worried about those things. However, here's what's going to happen. I think as much as they try to protect him to kind of see what's going to happen with that, what percentage of people do you think that consume the debate are the type that consume highlight reels like a game? I don't watch full games, but I'll watch a highlight reel.
Right.
I'll watch Sports Center. I'll watch some of the clips on Twitter to see, oh, look at this. Oh, wow, good for these guys. They won. What percentage do you think of voters are going to watch the entire thing on TV, on CNN, versus what percentage do you think are going to get the highlight reels on Instagram and Twitter? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's overwhelming the percentage who will watch portions of it rather than the whole thing.
You think it's 80-20?
At least.
Okay, so who cares? So part of me is like, okay, go ahead. Do what you want to do with this, right? Because the clips on this side that they're going to cut it, edit it, put it out there, the audience is going to go at it. You're going to see the polls. You're going to see the reactions. You're going to see who's going to be better editors. Nowadays, the better editing team, creating better clips in a fast manner with the right music, with the right creative, B-roll and things you add to it. Trump's camp's a better marketer. They've always been better marketers. The other side has no clue how to do marketing.
But maybe the bar is lower for Biden. I mean, you see these clips of him daily drooling and mangling names and identifying his sister as his wife, and he's just so out of it. And then they juice him up on something to the point where, as at the State of the Union, he seems sort of non-senile. So maybe if he pulls that off, why doesn't Trump just say, like, what drugs are you on? Why don't you disclose that?
Maybe he will. Maybe he'll ask it. And, saying the things about calling his sister's wife, That's his personal business. It's not your business, Tucker. I mean, I don't know why you're getting
how he arranges his personal life.
I don't know if you've ever been to West Virginia. People live in different ways. There's different standards. I don't think we should judge that.
Totally fair. And by the way, compared to the trans stuff, that's not that weird.
Yeah.
So how do you rate the peril to Trump personally? Physical peril?
Oh, you mean the two of them going up against each other?
To Trump now. So Trump's way ahead,
right?
Actually, farther ahead than a candidate typically is in May of an election year. And we sort of know that that's the red line. You can't have Trump. So I've asked him this directly, didn't get an answer. But do you worry that he could be harmed between now and then?
Well, I mean, Psaki briefly said, the risk that he stands in a most indirect way. And
Jen Psaki?
Yes. And I don't know if you've seen the movie Civil War that just came out. If you've seen the movie Civil War, it's about it's a commercial for Reuters of left-wing journalist and depicting the president of the time during the Civil War of an identical character played as Donald Trump. And the hero of the movie, to my knowledge, the way I saw the movie was the person that assassinates the president last minute. In the last minute of the movie, the president playing the role of Trump gets assassinated in the movie. How many people does that movie need to inspire for somebody to become a hero?
I haven't seen it, but the assassin, the Lee Harvey Oswald,
is the hero at the end.
Probably not actually the assassin, but whatever. He's the hero? The guy who murders the president is the hero.
In the movie, the way they sell it is that the president playing the character of Trump is an evil man.
Who made this movie?
It's very different than the other movie that was made, Leave the World Behind by Obama's and Julia Roberts. This actually had a decent cast for the movie. It's a very hard movie to watch. Leave the World Behind was actually a better produced movie, more dark, more deceptive, extremely divisive, a lot of messaging in there, predictive programming, stuff that you can watch and say, this can actually happen one day. But yeah, I mean, look, a lot of I don't know if you've seen the movie John Q. First time I watched John Q, Denzel Washington. Do you know the story about John Q?
No.
Okay, so it's a story about a father whose son is a fan of Flex Wheeler. He wants to be a bodybuilder, and his son, all of a sudden, heart collapses, and I think it's in the middle of a baseball game. They take him to the hospital. It's going to cost $250,000 to do surgery, and the company doesn't offer, allowing him to get the insurance because he doesn't have the best insurance, and he's trying to go raise the money. He can't raise the money. It's pointing a picture of a father about to lose a son because the hospital is not willing to spend $250,000 to save this kid's life, right? And you are going through this emotional roller coaster ride with the father. How many fathers are going to sit there and say, holy shit, what is this all about, right? And then eventually there's a scene where he tells Kevin Connolly, the actor from Entourage, and he says, listen, guys, just take it out of my heart and give it to him. It's this unique scene. It's like, I'm not going to do that. If you're not going to do it, I'm going to kill myself. You're going to take it out of my heart and you're going to give it to my son. Intense movie. Then while they're there, he's talking to his son. Son is laying on the bed at the hospital and he says, look, here's what I want you to think about. He says, my son buries me. I don't bury my son.
That's right. That's
right?
Exactly
my
right.
son buries me. That's how it needs to be. So you're like, yeah. And as a father, you're feeling it. Well, that was right before Obamacare. How many people did that movie influence to say, you know what? We do need affordable care, So movies have a lot of power. I mean, if you go back in the days, do you know who produced the first Titanic, the movie?
No.
It's a guy named Adolf Hitler. You know who the hero was in the movie, the first Titanic?
The iceberg?
The hero in the movie is the Nazi soldier. If you go and pull up first Titanic, produced by Germany, Adolf Hitler, the hero is painted as the Nazi soldier. The way you confuse propaganda, storytelling, is movies, docs, music. You know this. I mean, this is how you get the audience and the younger audience to buy in. So you mean to tell me the movie Civil War cannot inspire one kid to want to be a hero and being written about for the rest of his life in history books? You mean to tell me one kid's not going to be inspired by it? So I worry about some of this predictive programming they're putting because they're going to say, well, you can't just say it was a movie that did it. Doesn't take a lot of stuff to get a young kid to be inspired to do something. So that's my part that's a little bit worrisome about what could happen in the future. But yeah, I think they're willing to do anything and anything everything and anything to not get him in the White House because they worry if they do, they're going to lose their membership. I don't know if you saw what James Comey said yesterday. He got emotional. If he gets in there, he's going to completely change everything with our justice system. He's going to do everything with FBI. And he's going to put some bad people in there. And I'm telling you guys, this is the week. You cannot vote for Trump. You have to support. I've never seen Comey be this animated about Biden being a president. This just happened yesterday. So there's a lot of people that are worried about losing their card.
You got to wonder as you listen to Comey talk or Brennan or all these former agency heads of the most powerful agencies in the world, these guys still have security clearances? Of course they do.
For sure.
They use them for their jobs.
Right.
That's a privilege, not a right. And those should be revoked immediately by Donald Trump day fucking one. Why do those guys still have security clearances? I mean, if you believe in democracy, if you think that the people who live in the country own the country, it's their government and they have a say in how it's run, and that government should reflect their priorities over time, and I think we all claim to believe that, then you can't have unelected agency heads or retired unelected agency heads running everything behind the scenes. That is just absolutely antithetical to democracy. So why do these guys continue to be allowed legally to run the government from outside the government?
Right. So
that's not hard, is it?
No, it's not. But everybody is ambitious in their own way, some more, some less. But if you look at the profile of the top ambitious people, that they go in different routes. Okay, one is going to be fame. I want to be a celebrity. I want people to stop me and say, "Can I take a picture with you, Tucker? I want to do a selfie. Wow, I'm famous. Did you see this?" That's ambitious. I'm going to be famous one day, right? Okay, great. Then the other one is ambitious. We're going to be millionaires. We're going to be billionaires. We're going to have all the money in the world. Okay, great. So one is fame. The other one is money. The other one is power to tell you what to do. The money guys, it's a number. You can measure it. And you can say, this guy's winning because his net worth is $200 billion. His name is Elon Musk. This guy's number 2 at $180 billion. This guy's number 3, $165 billion, Zuck. There's a leader's bulletin for it. Fame, Kim Kardashian's got 400 million followers on Instagram. This person's got 500 million. Ronaldo's got 600 million. You can measure fame, right? How do you measure politics? How do you measure, what's the resume on measuring success in politics? And somebody working for the federal government, working for, an FBI or CIA and, and I know you're not very familiar with this organization called CIA, but it's a rough organization. It's a very interesting organization. You should look into them. Some interesting people have gone through there. But so you see, what do they want? What are they driven by? What do they want to do? Is their ambition what? Is it money? No. Is it fame? No. Fame is actually straight up, okay, cool. You want to be famous? Go do X, Y, Z. You want to make money? Go do X, Y, Z. But the power people, oof, you got to be very careful with them. A lot of times, like the way.
Well, so how do you measure power?
So the way you see, and this is it's easy in the business world. Say a guy, I had Michael Franzese on years ago when he and I started doing podcasts. Did a couple interviews with him.
Good guy.
And in the mob world, right?
And he's a good guy.
Yeah, I want to know so he took me. We went to New York because I was going to interview his father, Sonny Franzese. And Sonny is a guy that comes from the era of Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, Ben Siegel. He comes from that era.
I love that you call him Ben Siegel.
You can't say Bugsy, right? You got to say Ben.
Good.
And let me tell you how I
met the guy who murdered him, Eddie Catanzaro, when I was a kid.
No shit.
Yeah, killed him in 1947. He's a friend of my dad's. We would go have dinner at his house, and he murdered Bugsy Siegel. Yeah, shot him in the face with a .30 caliber.
Wow.
Big round.
What was it like when you talked to him?
He never married, never had kids. He was a cat guy. He collected stray cats, and my father loved animals and was good friends with Eddie Catanzaro. My brother and I would take us over for dinner, make cannelloni. He lived with his parents. It was all very weird. Anyway, but he killed Bugsy Siegel. But I remember hearing the conversation. Yeah, don't call him Bugsy. He wasn't.
So here's the thing. So we go out, and I'm like, I'm trying to convince Sonny, let me interview you. He says, for 55 years, I went to jail for 55 years. The only thing I can take to my grave is I never snitched on anybody. This is not a lie. This guy did 55 years in jail out of 103 years of living. Okay, never said anything to nobody, right? I get him in the car, taking him to his favorite Italian restaurant, okay? We pick him up from the old folks' home, and I'm driving. So, Sonny, what can you tell me about Meyer Lansky? Great guy. I heard he made a lot of money in many different ways. Phenomenal guy. What can you say about Bugsy Siegel? Don't say that. You can't say that. You call him Ben. Well, what can you tell me about Ben? Very good guy. Really. How about Frank Costello? Fantastic guy. How about everybody's a good guy? I'm like, Sonny, come on, Sonny. I mean, says, no, these are stand-up guys. I don't know what you're talking about, stand-up guys. Sonny eventually doesn't agree to do the interview. That interview never happens, okay? But Sonny told his son, he said, be very careful of the people that are lower power people in the mob family, because one day they could be a boss. And when they do become a boss, they're going to remember every way you disrespected them, and they're going to seek their vengeance on you in their own way. So be very careful to the lower level people that are coming up. One day they could be your boss, okay? All right. So you're running a company, you see a guy that's been with you for 5 years. He's doing a good job. He's a worker. He does 60 hours a week, stand-up guy, effort, attitude, teamwork, innovation, results, competency, specialized skill. He's got all that stuff. Then all of a sudden, he goes from being a performer, maybe he's got 1 or 2 people reporting to him. You make him a VP, and now he's got 35 people under his division. And then all of a sudden, you see him become a tyrant and a dictator. Like, wait a minute. Did it just happen overnight? Or was that always in there, but you were hiding it, and boom, now that you have the power, now you're abusing it, right? A lot of these people on the political side, deep down inside, someone offended them, a mom, a dad, a cousin, an ex, a friend, a professor, a teacher, somebody. And their way of seeking vengeance is to have control over other people. Lincoln said, you want to find out, test someone's character, give them power. These guys now have power, and they're showing what they're all about. And they fear somebody coming in that's a non-establishment guy coming in. They could lose that and be exposed. They are not willing to give that up. They're not willing to give that up. It's going to take everything they can to take that privilege away from them. And that's not going to be an easy thing for Trump to do.
You may have come to the obvious conclusion that the real debate is not between Republican and Democrat, or socialist and capitalist, right, left. The real battle is between people who are lying on purpose and people who are trying to tell you the truth. It's between good and evil. It's between honesty and falsehood. And we hope we are on the former side. That's why we created this network, the Tucker Carlson Network. And we invite you to subscribe to it. You go to tuckercarlson.com/podcast. Our entire archive is there. A lot of behind the scenes footage of what actually happens in this barn when only an iPhone is running. tuckercarlson.com/podcast. You will not regret it. I guess the difficulty for the power worshiping community is that they already did this in 2020. And now that, tempers have cooled and people can think clearly, they stole the election. Nobody actually thinks that was a free and fair election. It wasn't. And so the bar is a lot higher. Like, how do you do that again? And if you do it again, everyone's going to know you did it again. And then what kind of country do you have in January of 2025?
Study trends. If you, a great stockbroker is somebody that looks at trends, seasons, months, days, announcements, quarterly calls, industry, market, election. You have to look at everything on a board to say, according to this and X, Y, Z, and what's going on right now, this should happen next in the next quarter. Go to the history books and look at, when we raised the interest rate this many times, here's what happened next. When we were going through inflation, you look at all the case studies. Like when COVID first happened, Jennifer and I are in Beverly Hills. We're about to have a board meeting. And then last meeting, everybody that's supposed to fly in cancels about. I'm like, what the hell is going on? We brought the kids. We're about to go to Universal. That's the day Rudy Gobert gave Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz COVID, and NHL shuts down, NBA shuts down. That's the day. Disney shuts down Universal. What the hell is going on? We got to fly back. We fly back to Dallas. I take the family to the house. I come back to the office, and I'm studying all the different pandemics that we've had. And you'll see, out of all the pandemics we've had, how the market has reacted. 90% of the top 10 pandemics we've had, massive market drop off, but every one of them 6 months later, it came back to exactly what it used to be, if not higher. Yes. There's only one that didn't recover for 12 months, and that's AIDS. Everything else, 6-month recovery, right? So I could sit there and say, well, this could be fear porn. Market's going to go down to 18,000, 17,000 down, whatever could happen, but it's fear. It's going to come back up 6 months later. That's exactly what happened, right? Boom. Boom, came back up. Okay, so trends, things to study, patterns on what's going on with today. If we go to 2016 election, the mistake mainstream media made was what? CNN kept inviting Trump. He said yes. They kept inviting him. Yes. MSNBC, yes. Like, so we're getting all these crazy ratings. We're killing it, MSNBC. No, he's bringing you ratings. And then all of a sudden they're like, guys, we created a monster. It's too late. We've done $500 million of free media advertisement for this guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't even need to spend the money on it. Holy shit. He just won. Are you kidding me? This didn't work. The defamation and, all this stuff. Damn, guys, this is not going to work in 2020. So go to 2020. What did they do in 2020? We got to find a different playbook. 2016, they used Me Too, backfired on them when Trump brought the candidates, showing and all this other stuff, right? And he's like, well, let me tell you who we have here. Paula this, and you see Clinton looking like this, that famous picture.
Oh,
right?
I was there for that.
So 2020.
All of Bill Clinton's girlfriends.
Pretty impressive, right?
It was amazing.
Yeah. 2020, May 25th, you need chaos. May 25th, what happens? George Floyd gets assassinated. Now, George Floyd dies, not gets assassinated. The word they wanted to kind of use was obviously a bigger thing, but George Floyd, the number of minutes that it took place, knee, all that stuff. Next day, riots, protesting, insanity. What do Republicans start saying? Look, man, I like him, but I don't know why. Maybe they're right. The more he's in there, the more chaos happens in the streets. And I just want the chaos to slow down. That's what I want.
Of course.
That strategy worked very effectively. Here's what they're doing in 2024 that you can see some case studies of what they're doing, what's not going to work. What are they doing in 2024 that they haven't learned their lesson? They're making a mistake that they made in 2016, but they're doing it in a different way. 2016, all CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS ever talked about was what? Trump, but they invited him. Yeah. Well, they're not inviting him now, but what are they doing? Because he's in court and all these different cases, they have to keep talking about him over and over, thinking that strategy is going to work for them because they're getting ratings. What they're not realizing, again, they're coming the best publicist PR for this guy. And now it's like, oh my God, it's backfiring on us again. All we're talking, look at the black vote in 2020. He only had 9%. In 2024, he's got 22% of the African American vote. And what's even worse than this, the people that are above 65, 81% of them are for Democrat, and most of these guys go, but the younger audience we're losing. This is not good if we're losing younger audience. If we lose the younger audience, could this be a Barry Goldwater? Well, the African American vote flips for the next 3 decades. They're now seeing that this strategy is not working. However, the part that you have to see the case study is the following. So pinning Muslims against Jews, against Christians, against pro-Palestine, against Gaza, Hamas, pro-Israel, all this stuff. You can have your own position. We can all have our own position. We don't need to go there if you don't want to go there. But here's the part. Where they're winning is what? Kids in schools, riots, protesting, and they're doing what they're doing. All they're waiting for is the next George Floyd. That's all they need. They need their next George Floyd. And what month are we in right now? Today's what?
May 22nd.
Okay. May 25th is coming up in 3 days. May 26th is in a few days. They need chaos back again, except they're going to do it in a different way.
I keep thinking that about the Israel-Palestine thing. I'm probably the only person in the world who doesn't have very strong feelings on it. I like Israel. I'm not against the Palestinians. I'm just kind of agnostic. I'm just too American for this whole conversation. But when that becomes the biggest news story in the United States, a conflict across the globe, and when these protests are blown so out of proportion by all news media, you have to think, like, maybe this is not a reflection of reality. Like, maybe I'm being played here a little bit, right? Or maybe I'm being played a lot.
Well, maybe you are. But I want to apologize because I didn't start off by congratulating you on your one of the most honest outlets out there, Newsweek, reporting your massive contract you signed with Russian TV. Congratulations on that.
It's just part of my ongoing business relationship with Vladimir Putin. No, they, of course, I never even contemplated. I have no idea what they're talking about. I have nothing to do with Russian media. I couldn't even identify 3 Russian media outlets. Of course, I don't speak Russian. But that's a pretext for a FISA warrant. So you put that out there, and Newsweek knows this, and they're mad at me for other reasons, of course. And you put this out there, and all of a sudden it gives the Biden administration, an excuse to spy on me, which they already are, but and have been over the last several years. But what's crazy is you can live in a country where that's completely illegal, and everyone knows it's happening and nobody says anything about it. And the only people who do say anything about it, like Julian Assange or Ed Snowden, like they're the ones facing life in prison. I mean, it's like, it's a little bit upside down. I would say no, but that story, look, the media don't just mislead you. They're not just, worker bees for the Democratic Party. They're, they want to hurt you, like actually hurt you, like put you in prison or kill you. Like they're that involved in the machinery of internal repression in this country. So
you're not saying that the DOJ would ever give permission to use deadly force when they're invading a former
when
president.
They're going through Melania's underwear drawers.
That would never happen.
Melania shows up and says, "Why are you going through my nightgowns?"
Boom.
Bam!
Yeah.
Deadly force.
So
I would say that the problem that we have as as people who are not part of the machine, you don't even need to be, it's not even a right or left question. It's, are you on the side of lies or are you not? Is we don't understand just how serious they are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you were running DOJ and you saw a search warrant that said, yes, the use of deadly force applies in a documents case, a classified documents case. By the way, the documents were meaningless. No one's ever shown otherwise. Doesn't matter. You can put them on the internet now. It just doesn't matter, actually. And if you were the Attorney General and you were looking through the warrant and said use of deadly force is allowed, you'd say, whoa, 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 whoa. We're literally rooting through Melania's dresser. We don't need to use deadly. Wouldn't you say that just as someone who believes in fairness and sanity?
The fact that you're putting that in there to give permission, and it's just kind of, water under, no worries. Next news cycle, it's not a big story. Next news cycle, it's not a big story.
But what does it say? It says that they're serious enough to kill you. Absolutely they are. Gonzalo Lira got murdered in Ukrainian prison. This, of course, run by the State Department and CIA. Basically killed by the Biden administration. No big deal.
Well, I mean, at least
he's an American citizen.
But at least the confidence comes the fact that never in the history of U.S. has the government ever assassinated a president. So it's not like that kind of a person who's a very ambitious vice president would never do that to become a president historically, and within minutes want to be sworn in. It
sounds like a dangerous conspiracy theory to me. So let me ask you though, it's pretty clear to me that 2 summers ago, so August 2022, when that deadly force raid on Mar-a-Lago took place and they rooted through the former First Lady's underwear, that was the moment when Trump kind of came back. Like DeSantis was done. This is my read on it. Mm-hmm. The more they persecute Trump unfairly, the more transparently grotesque and corrupt it is, the stronger Trump becomes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it seems pretty obvious. There's been polling on this. Do you think the people who did it knew that would happen? How much of this did they think through?
No, I don't. I actually don't think they thought it would happen. I think they think it's working. And now it's too late. Michael Cohen, did you steal from the Trump organization? Yes, sir, I did. What? Yeah, I did. Holy shit. So now somebody on CNN has to say, it's over for this guy, right?
Yeah.
So this is another reason why sometimes when people are like, we're going to sue those guys, go ahead and do it. Then comes discovery. You got to also give me your discovery, right? Meaning, so
of course,
when you're suing, I want to see your discovery. Give me your discovery. Let's go through it. You're suing me? Great. Let's go through it. I want to see discovery on text exchange, email exchange. Oh, shit. No, we don't want to do that. Well, but that's how lawsuits work. I want also discovery, right? So now it's backfiring. Now they have to sit there. I mean, if we really play this thing out, I'd be curious with you. Why do you think they chose to all of a sudden flip June 27th debate, and then the next one's going to be, in September, and first one I think is CNN, second one I think it's ABC if I'm not mistaken. Why do you think all of a sudden they flip so quickly? Are you part of the camp that thinks maybe they're trying to see how good he's going to be to kind of replace him? Or what is the motive of trying to do
there are many levels, and I don't know the answer. I think it's getting a little late to try to replace him, honestly. And I think that'd be a pretty hard sell. And with whom? And what do you do with Kamala? This is the problem with DEI, with elevating people beyond their capacity, taking like a true mouth-breathing moron like Kamala Harris and making her vice president. Like these are the wages of sin that they're dealing with now, and I'm really glad to see it. So I don't know that they replace him. I don't know how they can. Maybe they're more clever than I am and have a plan. I think it's as simple as the guy who's down wants a debate. he needs to change the storyline. If the trend is hurting Joe Biden, it's not his friend. And so they got to do something. Like, why not a debate? And again, it comes back to pharmacology. Like, they're injecting him with drugs. And so for a short period of time, he can seem sentient and aware and semi-capable, old, but not a vegetable. The rest of the time he is a vegetable. And I think they can get away with that for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I think that's, I don't know, but my guess is they think they just have to show that he's not as senile as you think he is. And that's going to be enough. It was did you watch State of the Union?
I did.
He didn't seem quite as retarded as he normally does. No, he didn't. And that's drugs. I know someone, a makeup artist who worked on Joe Biden during the 2020 campaign, who was there when he got the drugs, like in the room with the doctor.
What kind of drugs?
Presumably amphetamines.
Okay.
Adderall, some version of that.
Right.
And so who watched it and over a series of days and told me all about it. So that's absolutely real. And we've never gotten a readout on what drugs he's taking. By the way, he's the president of the United States. He has a nuclear arsenal at his command. Mm-hmm. He has the briefcase. He should be required to disclose what drugs he's taking, no?
Yeah, we would want to know, but that's never going to happen. That's never.
Well, then who's in control of the government?
Right.
He's our employee. If your housekeeper shows up and she seems drunk, you get to say, "Are you drunk? Prove you're not drunk, or go home."
How much do you love America?
A lot.
What is America to you?
America is my family, my neighbors, my ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
America is the grandchildren I don't yet have. America is also a physical place. It's the water, it's the trees especially, it's the mountains, it's the coasts, it's the physical beauty of the country. It's a physical place to me. It is absolutely not an idea. I don't even know what that means. Mm-hmm. And it's a physical reality to me. America has a smell. America has a vibe, and America is Americans. And so it's the people who live here. By the way, if America is filled with people who aren't American, it's no longer America. And that's what's happening, of course. Mm-hmm. It was not the country I grew up in. Therefore, it's not, what's my attachment to the country? A place is the people who occupy the place, and it's the physical surroundings. We're in a room, we're in a barn right now, and it's, the wood beams holding up the hayloft, but it's also you and your wife, one of my, you know what I mean? So it's real things that you can touch and smell and taste. It's not, there's nothing abstract about it. Just like there's nothing abstract about my wife. Like, I like the way she smells, right? Mm-hmm. So she's not an idea. Is your wife an idea?
Mm-hmm. No.
She's a physical presence. Right. So that's what America is to me, yes.
So, and how worried are you about that America being at risk or collapsing or losing some of its moxie that it's had for 2.5 centuries? How worried are you about that?
Well, I've accepted the reality, at least in the second part of your question, that it's already happened. It's lost its moxie, and men are in terminal decline. And I see it all around me, particularly young men. They're defeated. They're defeated by a system that set out to defeat them and succeeded. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but a lot of ways that they were defeated, but they have been. Not all, but the broad middle has been defeated. And so I'm incredibly sad about that. But I think about America the way that I think about, a ship that's leaking. It's like, one thing I know is I'm staying on it, whether it, I'll ride it to the bottom or not, but I'm here.
So, okay. So at what capacity are you willing to contribute for it not to leak? Is it at any capacity, or is it limited capacity that you're willing to personally
Well, I don't have
contribute?
any options. And by the way, if I were in charge, if I were some sort of benign monarch, hopefully benign, no dual passports in my country. Sorry. Because that really is the measure of commitment. Are you all in or not? Like, do you have options? Have you burned the boats, as they say? And I think you should be required to burn the boats. No, you can't go back. You're here. And once you are, this is what marriage is. This is why you treat your wife better than you treat your girlfriend, because you're married to her and it's very hard to get out of, and you've got children together. And so in a normal marriage, the person's like, well, one thing I know I'm not doing is divorcing. So I'm going to actually try, I'm going to suck it up and try. And that works. Sucking it up and trying works. Right. I feel the same way about my country. I'm not going anywhere. I don't have another passport. I wouldn't get another passport. How many people do I know with dual passports? Like 1 million? And they tend to be the richest people and the people who've gotten the most from the country, who've really benefited from our systems, which they've then destroyed. And I think that should be illegal. Like, Pick a country and pick a military. No, you can't serve in a foreign military. What? And no, we're not going to pay you to serve in a foreign. I don't care what the country. I don't care if it's England or Sweden, where my ancestors came from. I don't care if it's Burkina Faso, where yours came from, or Iran, where yours came from. It's like, no. And you should be all in. I just, the whole idea of it, it's like an Airbnb. They're using, the country's like a fucking Airbnb to them. And it's not an Airbnb. It's my house. That's how I feel.
Okay, so let's stay on that. When
Sorry.
No, this is very helpful.
Serving in a foreign military.
When you talking about
any military? I mean,
I saw
any.
That, but I know what
military.
you're talking about because I read the notes on if you're able to serve in Israel, it's going to count as.
Oh, you hate Israel?
All this stuff.
I do not hate it. I like Israel.
How does that? But what is a lot? I don't even want to get sidetracked. How is that even the logic to say like you serve in another military counts as the same as?
I don't care what. I don't care if it's. My name is Carlson.
But
I'm Swedish. If you serve in the Swedish military, get out.
What's the argument?
We're not Sweden. I mean, what?
How is their argument to us, though? How are they saying
There's no argument. There's just like, you hate this or that. No, I don't hate anybody. And actually, in the case of that specific country, I've been there a number of times. I could describe it in detail because it's one of my favorite places in the world. I'm just saying, I do. Not just the ancient city that defines the country, in my opinion, not the modern Miami knockoff that everyone loves, but the real Jerusalem. It's unbelievable. And the people and the food, and like, I just like it. So I'm not going to fall for that. You hate it. No, I don't hate it. I just love my country, and I think you can only have one country at a time. I don't believe in polygamy either. You got one wife. And by the way, if you have two wives, I know people who are polygamous, and I, with respect, you're not all in on any one wife. So it's like, well, she's acting crazy. See ya. And you go deal with the other wife, right?
Yeah.
And your commitment is less when it's diffuse. When you've got more than one, you cannot serve two masters. I believe I'm quoting someone in that. And it's just true. It's factually true.
Well, if you got 4 wives and you're running a podcast, you immediately have a couple sponsors. Cialis, Viagra. It's like, hey, I'm here with my 4 wives. This is brought to you by...
Do you know anyone who's polygamous? Have you known polygamous people?
Yes, of course. I had a guy that interviewed for a job, and he came from Africa, and he had 32 kids. I said, how do you have... I'd love to have 20 kids. How do you have 32 kids?
I would.
But he's got 8 wives. So mathematically, math is in his
It's
favor.
a lot. Is he Muslim?
I don't remember.
Because that's double the allowed amount. The problem with polygamy in Islam, which is actually a lot more... I'm not flacking for Islam, I'm a Christian, but it's a lot more humane than people say, and a lot less common than people imagine, because the rules are pretty tough on polygamy in Islam. You have to treat each wife the same, and that means spend the same amount of money, spend the same amount of time. So if you take one wife to Disney World with her kids, you got to take the next wife to Disney World with her kids for the same amount of time. So, it takes a lot of money and a lot of effort to make it right.
Are you suggesting for term limits in marriage? Like, is that kind of what you're saying?
I'm suggesting actually that monogamy works really well.
Got
and
it. I'm
stick
just
with it. But
specify, because sometimes there could be a gray area. But let me go to my question. So obviously, this is the first time you and I have ever met.
Yes.
Okay. The last 24
we had dinner
hours.
last night.
Of course. But what I'm saying is we've never met prior to this.
Yes.
We've never spoken. This is the first interaction we've had the last 24 hours. Great time last night. That was the real podcast. That was the real podcast.
I know.
But anyways, we won't go there. But the conversation, the question I got for you is, when I was watching you, and I'm trying to see, the evolution of you from where you're at, your background, what you've done, sitting there saying, okay, is this? Oh, he's leaving because he's gonna build News Corp 2 because he wants to be the next, Rupert Murdoch. I'm like, I don't know if that's what he wants to do. He's going to be Roger Ailes, and he's going to produce 100 other talents. Maybe. I don't know. No. He wants to be the Rush Limbaugh, the number one for the next 2 decades. And he wants to be able to say, so, okay, he's already that guy. I don't think he needs to do that. No. Then there's a part of me that says, okay, I really think this guy loves America in a very sincere, clear conviction type of way. Okay. And I think he's willing to do anything for that. This is not a conversation for 2024. Do you at all internally think, and you're a very well-read guy, there's books here, there's plenty of books over there. Do you look at Churchill and you say, this guy was a journalist, controversial figure, the feud with him and Chamberlain and all these other guys, and eventually he's like, listen, man, we gotta need somebody like this that's got the brass to come and do something. Is there any limit of where you're willing to go to fight for what America the idea of America, where you grew up, your story, your family, all of that, are you willing to go all the way to the point where you would consider a 2028 run as a president?
Well, I believe in using the gifts that God gave you. And I think putting people in the wrong jobs or the wrong marriages or the wrong schools is counterproductive. In fact, it's a sin. I think we're all born for something, and you should figure out what that is, and you should do it. My dogs, two of my dogs can find any bird on any path in any field or forest in America. They will find the bird. They do not do my taxes because they're not born to do my taxes. They're born to find birds. And I feel that way about myself and everyone around me. Do what you're born to do. And I just don't see myself as a political person. My only goal is to be free, personally free. I really believe in personal liberation, like tell the truth. That's liberation about yourself primarily, but also about the world around you. And my second goal is to preserve, the country that I grew up in to the extent that I can. I mean, recognizing that my powers are really limited and that my vision is blurry and I'm a human being, not God. But yeah, that's absolutely my goal. I have never been that interested in money at all. And I'm not interested in building large organizations or administering them. I'm not good at that. And I just want to tell the truth. And I'm absolutely willing, especially now that I'm 55, like who cares? You're looking at a future of what, like Parkinson's? Like really? At a certain age, you're like, I see these old people, including a lot of old people in power who are like trying to squeeze out another year. It's like, accept your mortality, please. Spend some time with the people you love and who love you, your children, your grandchildren, your wife. None of them want to accept the finite nature of life. So I do accept that. And so I just want to do whatever I can to achieve those two goals, to remain free and honest inside and to preserve the country that I really love. Like I loved growing up here and so have previous generations of my family and I hope subsequent generations. So that's kind of it. I have always had low bore goals. I don't have any grand plan for world domination. I can't even dominate my town, but I would do anything to do that.
Anything.
Anything.
So you would consider 2028 run?
Yeah, I don't think I'd be very good at it, but I would do whatever I could to help. I want to be helpful.
Right.
And that is the motto of my family, actually. Inside my wedding ring, it says, forever your helper. And my wife says that too, because I believe in helping. I think that's our duty as Christians. It's our duty as people. It's the most fulfilling thing you can do is just to help in some small way. You're never going to figure it out. You're never going to fix everything because you're not God. To repeat, you're not God. But you can make incremental progress and you should never stop trying. So would you?
Oh, no question about it. This country's changed my life. Yeah, there's absolutely.
But do you think there's a political, this is such a cliche at this point, but is there a political solution to the problems that beset us?
What are you going to do if you're not involved? How are you going to be able to make direct impact? You can talk about all this stuff all you want. If you're not on the inside to see what's really going on, then what are you going to do?
Because I think articulating things out loud makes all the difference.
Policy change
for sure, but those typically follow changes of heart. There's some policies that nobody wants and they change everything because they're imposed by fiat. That's real. On the other hand, look at what triggers the liars. It's not policy changes. It's some guy standing up and saying, wait, that's not true. The CIA knew about Oswald. Like, shut up. It's like, or whatever it is. Like, why don't you declassify the 9/11 document? Shut up, conspiracy theorist. It's like, why is that so threatening? And it's so threatening because it's getting closer to the truth. So saying the truth out loud, they spend all of their time trying to censor people. Why do they do that? Because that's the greatest threat to them. It's not some bill in Congress that can be undone. What can't be undone, if you get in an argument with your wife and you say something truly horrible to her, like vicious and, true, kind of hard to fix that. Like it'd be many years before you fix that because you've articulated something. Those words have hung in the air as a kind of independent entity, like words have their own being. In the beginning was the word. And that does more damage than punching somebody. It's true. So I don't know. I think telling the truth out loud is like the most powerful and revolutionary thing that you can do.
Yeah, but so what'll happen is, here's what I noticed that's going on. So we're at a family Goldman Sachs event in Chicago last week, and they bring these 60 billionaire families. and it's about family forum, founder family forum, something like that, right? It was actually a very interesting thing to go, because it's generational wealth to see how other families have done it. So you saw all the owners of the different sports teams, Reinsdorf, they own the Bulls. You got the Cubs, you got the Blackhawk, you got the Crown family, General Dynamics, $30 billion family, and they're kind of going through it. And then you have the Walsh family. Very, very interesting to listen to these guys. One of the parts when the Crown family guy, Keating, is talking, he says, in our family, I'm fourth generation. I'm the oldest G4. And G4 means fourth generation kid.
G4, yeah.
He's a 47-year-old G4, okay? His daughter is a 12-year-old who's the oldest G5 out of 150. Okay, so you got a oldest G4, oldest G5. Now, G5 is 150 kids, grandkids. So imagine 150 kids that are coming from a billionaire family. Like, how much of that's coming to me? What do I need? It's kind of complicated to how to use that, right? Okay, so watch this. So then the next guy comes up and is breaking down the numbers, saying, do you know what percentage of wealthy families' money makes it to second generation G2? 31%. Do you know what percentage makes it to G3? 12%. Do you know what percentage makes it to G4? 3%. So wow. 31, 12, 3 to G4. What is it to G5, G6, G7? Okay. So where am I going with this? America is a family, is a company, right? And it started off with the wealth that's been created. And now we got G1, G2, G3, G4, whatever it is today, G20, G30, G40. We're on a different G, right? And except now, it's like a super wealthy family. Let's put a net worth of $32 trillion or $30 trillion minus all the credit card debt that we have. That's another $32 trillion. And we got a top line revenue of, say, $4 trillion, whatever our GDP that we're doing per year. No problem. So you break this down and you're trying to get that money. It was like, hey, what am I going to get? How'd you forget about me? I did this. You owe me this much money. Oh, shit, we got to make this guy. We got to make that guy. We got to make this guy. The way it's going, it's catastrophic on what's going to happen money-wise here very soon with the next generation that are entitled on what you're going to give to them next. Okay. So many times, just like when you look at people that should have more kids, don't, the people that don't have the resources are not teaching the values, are not that responsible, are not the examples of a good citizen to duplicate other kids. They're having 7, 8, 9 kids. And so we're duplicating the wrong habits at a pace faster than duplicating the right habits. Eventually, what ends up happening is people that are not qualified to run a job do so, and they have control over you and I. I think it was Plato that said it.
Oh, I've noticed.
Those who think it's foolish to study politics will be governed by fools who do.
That's right.
Those who think it's foolish to study politics will be governed by fools who do. Okay. If guys who have the mouthpiece, debate, history, argument, if those guys who should consider running don't run, fools will. And now we're going to be governed by fools.
What's the story of Kamala Harris? I mean, when I was a child, I got my first driver's license in 1985 or so-ish, 1985. Kamala Harris would be working the DMV. And you'd think, like, how did someone like this get a job at the DMV? Like, she's dumb.
It's a prestigious job.
She's annoying.
Yeah.
She clearly hates me for reasons I can't control. And then you wake up in a country where she's a U.S. senator, then vice president of the United States. It's like, no, I completely agree with you. The problem is it's hard to fix that. The generational, I mean, I actually grew up in a family like this, G5 or whatever. And like you look around and everybody's kind of not impressive and self-hating and not productive and increasingly not rich at all and drinking too much and decadent and filled with all kinds of angst and all that. Like generational wealth does not, I've almost never seen it work. So like, what's the answer to that?
Well, I don't think the answer is sitting on the sidelines and having them keep getting more and more.
But that
power
is you just described the problem of the country.
Right.
I'm not attacking the Crown family or the Goldman Sachs family. So I wonder how screwed up the G5 is and all those families. Pretty screwed up.
Of course it is.
Like big time.
No question about it.
So what happens in families happens at scale. It happens in countries.
For sure. But also at the same time, when when you go and study Lawrence Miller's book, Barbarians to Bureaucrats, he talks about every civilization, every society, every country, company goes through these phases. First, you have the prophet. He's the founder. You have the founding fathers, right? Hey, we're going to go out there and there's no way we're going to pay taxes on taxation without represent. Shit, okay. These guys are not wanting to pay taxes. Yeah, we're not going to. They can't do that to us. All right. Then they inspire barbarians. Okay. So Jobs inspired barbarians. Musk inspires barbarians. Sometimes the prophet is a barbarian. Musk is both, right? Jobs is both. Our founding fathers, many of them were both. So you got prophet, barbarian, builders, explorers. Then you have administrators.
Oh, yes.
Then you have aristocrats, bureaucrats. Then comes the downfall. Company, family, legacy, G4, G5, it's done. And the only way at this point that you can save that civilization, that society, that company, is for a synergist that comes in and is able to rally enough of the people to say, here's what we're going to be doing. He's not trying to rally the aristocrats. He's not trying to rally the bureaucrats. You're not going to get those guys. Those guys got to get fired. He's trying to rally the builders, the explorers, the guys that are saying, hey, man, I just want to kind of go out there and build my business. I feel we're at an era right now, we're at a phase right now where the synergists need to say, you know what? I feel like I can play the role for this. Great. Let's roll. I think these guys need to right now either be recruited, they need to be inspired, they need to have people that come to them and have a conversation saying, hey, I think you need to consider, we got 5 of us here. We came here for one reason. We're thinking about talking to you about 2028. Not interested, not this, not saying these conversations are not happening. Of course, they're happening behind closed doors regularly. But I think these guys, if America's worth saving, if the concept of saving America is something that we value, we need to either choose, if we can, contribute kind of like you, or we need to inspire and recruit and, get others to say, I think you ought to consider doing this.
I mean, I think you need a whole class of people. I mean, I feel like I'm unusual, statistically unusual, in that I'm a white American-born man who's not like suicidal on some level. I don't think there's a virtue in destroying things, including myself. I'm not into it. I just don't feel that way at all. I'm sort of, you know what I mean, have a lot to appreciate in everything, and I love my family. But there aren't that many people like that. And it is the product of generational wealth. I mean, there are a lot, but statistically, there are a lot of people who, I mean, what's transgenderism? It's a form of suicide, of course. What's drug addiction? A form of suicide. What's chronic obesity? Form of suicide. It's all kind of branches from the same tree. And so it's really about the spirit. And that's why, if you did immigration right, which we're not doing at all. We're using immigration as another tool to destroy the country. But you could conceivably, add the energy and the non-suicidal impulses into your country or gene pool. That would be good. But I don't kind of see a way out. Like the people who were born in 1969, as I was, just a lot of them are just given up. So what would you say as an employer and as an immigrant who made it here? What would you say to like a 22-year-old man who can't get a job, go to some stupid college, get some meaningless marketing degree, and you can't get a job? You're a white man, you can't get a job. What would you, and then they're on the internet all upset, and they're not dating. It's like it's a disaster. I'm seeing it all around me.
Yeah.
What would you say to that kid?
Go, instead of pursuing a career, pursue a doer and someone to shadow. I don't think it's about you going and saying, I'm going to go be a realtor. I'm going to go be a business analyst. I'm going to go be a predictive analyst. I'm going to go be a VP of this. Why don't you go work for a person that's a prolific at what they do and go model them, go shadow them? That's going to be a better university for you than anything else. We're sitting here last night. Who learned the most? The guys that were here that are watching the exchange, the questioning, okay, what do you think about this? What about that? Going back and forth to somebody that's 22 years old. Yesterday was 6 months worth of media lessons. Last night, what we just went through, right? Think about what that happened those 3 hours last night. What would a 22-year-old gain from that? What would you and I gain at 22 if we were at that room? We were like, oh my God, it's crazy. Okay, I get this makes sense. So I think to me, it's more go find the right people to duplicate and shadow and support them. And if you can work under them as closely as possible, that'll be a better degree for you than anything else. But let me go back to kind of what you were saying I'm 55 years old. The guys that were born in 1969, they're kind of like I'm just like, but they've given up. But that's exactly what they want you to do. That's exactly
Well,
what
I'm not doing that.
No, not you. Meaning that's exactly what. If
Oh,
the
I
person's
agree.
watching, that's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to be sitting there saying, "Yeah, I mean, what can I do? You know, I'm just like I can't do anything about it." In every organization, in every great movie, every great story, every great book, the hero's journey you go through, it's typically the guy that doesn't want to do it. People are trying to encourage him, and then finally one day it clicks, boom, and then boom, something happens. Spirit opens up. They go in intentional, a certain level of conviction deep down inside, where you're saying there's something different about the way this guy's selling it to me than others. I don't know why. I like this guy. I trust this guy. He seems reasonable. I can listen to this guy. I think those guys are out there. And the idea years ago, they asked Castro, say, hey, if you had to do it all over again, how many thousands of people would you need to be able to pursue your vision of communism and all this other? Would it be 10,000? Would it be 100,000? Would it be 1,000? He says, I need one person who's 100% true believer. That's all I need. With one, we would have done it all over again, right? There's this idea that we think we need 70, 80, 1,000, 10,000. We need one person who we can rally behind. And by the way, the other thing I would also say is, the founding fathers, 1776, they did what they did. Benjamin Rush, you got all these guys, Smith, Jefferson, Washington, of course, Franklin, all these names, right? Where are those guys today who are getting together once a month, once a quarter, once every 6 months to talk? Where are those guys today? Where are those guys today? Do we not need those guys today? And I'm not talking about Congress, Senate. I'm talking about guys that can hold those guys accountable. Where are those guys today? I don't know. But I think, the great thing about what's been going on the last 4 years specifically, maybe started 16, got pretty bad in COVID, 2020, 2021. The one thing that's been very weird the last 4 years, the right people are finding each other.
I totally agree.
It's a beautiful thing.
Do you feel the spirit of the country changing? Do you feel that people, well, I have noticed in my tiny, weird little world that people do seem freer about what they say and think.
I agree.
You feel that?
I fully agree. Absolutely, I agree. And by the way, I think a couple of it also, we got to give credit to the right people. You got to give credit to capitalism, because I think what Daniel elected with Spotify, defending Rogan, was monumental.
I agree with that.
I think that was a very, very big move on what he did. I think Musk buying Twitter and X, monumental. If X doesn't do what he does, he fires Rogan. If Elon never buys Twitter, this is not the same America. So there's been also good moves behind closed doors where people are sitting there and saying, okay, all right, shit. If we act up and we give strikes for everything and we lose these guys, they got a place to go, Spotify, and they got a place to go, Twitter and X. That is problematic. We can't lose that guy, because if we do, then people are going to be like, this is the censorship crowd. Oh, what do we got to do to get rid of Elon? Defamation. We got to find everything and anything we can on him, right? Or what do we got to do with Spotify? He doesn't give a shit. He's living in a different country. He can't do anything to him. And by the way, Spotify numbers came out right now. I don't know if you saw the reports from this morning saying 64% of fans of the podcast they follow, they rely on them for their political views than what they get from mainstream media. And their numbers has grown 38%.
It's amazing.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
And by the way, just to show a rare flash of racial pride, go Sweden. Daniel Eck, go Sweden.
Sweden.
Sweden hasn't added a lot, actually, to the world in the last 100 years.
Is one
but
way.
This is one thing,
this is one
right?
Way. Yeah,
Ever since Saab went out of business, I kind of lost faith, but Spotify
beautiful car, yes, very sporty.
So what is, I am really, I'm struck by so many things. I mean, that's how I spent my life. But one, like, how is this shaking out? Like, there are a lot of conservative media outlets that I sort of took semi-seriously that now I don't take seriously at all. They're obviously fake. And the news outlets I worked for the past 30 years, they're either all gone or they're about to be gone. NBC News is going to, they're all going away, obviously. So what does the landscape look in 5 years?
In the media space?
Yeah.
Specific to conservative?
Just broadly.
Okay. So cable is dropping, but not at the pace people thought. What Peacock did, paying $110 million for the Dolphins game against the Chiefs, and had 23 million people watching, that they had to pay, $4.99 or $9.99. That changed the game with sports. So cable's sitting there saying, holy shit, what are we going to do now? I think they just signed 2 NFL games that either Amazon or Netflix, one of those guys paid some $100 million, $120 million. So You're seeing sports make the transition out of cable TV because cable TV has been saved by three communities. You got the boomers, you got the sports community, and you got big pharma. You take those three out, there is no cable. It's gone. Big pharma gets their advertising dollars through there. So you need one president to come in and say, hey, we're not going to be one of two like New Zealand allowing you guys to advertise on TV. You're gone. Do it elsewhere. You're not going to advertise anymore. You know who goes out of business if they do that? 80% of these guys, if not more. Boomers, it's just a matter of time.
I mean, I don't think that would just to pause for 1 second. I don't think that would save America, but I think it would improve America a lot.
Tremendously.
People, do you take any head drugs? Are you in Xanax or Adderall?
No. But I take,
everybody is.
You're right.
And those drugs kill you and destroy your brain.
Yeah.
And no one ever says anything about it. How many people do you know are addicted to Xanax or Adderall? I know a lot personally.
I've lost friends over that.
Me
personally,
too.
A number of them, yeah.
So Xanax and Adderall, which are considered like totally normal, it's just Xanax and Adderall. Like that's completely evil.
Right.
I mean, that's meth and a physically addictive benzodiazepine. I mean, it's like really crazy. And I can't remember the last time I remember ever seeing a story. And have you ever seen a story on that?
The only one you would think about is when Tom Cruise went on Matt Lauer and it pushed the envelope and, going at him. I don't know if you remember that, where he's saying, why are we taking all these
Do I remember
drugs?
it? Yes, I remember. I remember thinking the Tom Cruise thing. I mean, I don't watch movies, so I was like, Tom Cruise is like an actor. He seems a little effeminate and weird. He's in this cult, Scientology.
Right.
By the end of that, I was like, you know what? I don't know Tom Cruise, but I'm kind of pro Tom Cruise because that guy is telling the truth. I don't care if it's because of his weird religion or whatever. That's the truth.
Oh, that was fascinating, right? Or even when Robert De Niro, when he's at a film festival and a documentary was coming out about vaccine by, I think, Del Bigtree, and he's talking about the documentary because he's got an autistic son. I think he's like 22 or 23 years old. That's one area where he's like, we have to look into this. What's going on with this? And he's kept the counter to him. At the time, the kid was 16 years old. But I think there's some moments, and they try to hide it as much as possible. So Robert De Niro
suggested there's a link between vaccines and autism.
You've never seen this interview?
No.
I have to show it to you afterwards, okay? So he's talking about it, and the host is trying to shut him up. And he's, you guys got to see this documentary. And he's not one that uses his kids as we know where he's at with Trump. We know he's got TDS.
Yeah.
We know he loses his mind. But when it comes down to vaccine and autism, that is a very personal thing to him.
But can you imagine not being allowed to ask?
Yeah, that's a problem.
I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. There's some evidence that it is true, and we do know that they took the additive out of the vaccine, but it, of course, had nothing to do with autism. But like, in what world can't you ask that question or demand like a straightforward answer? They're forcing your kids to take this stuff.
No, I mean, listen, if you think about business models, Tucker, and I'll go back to the question about the media landscape.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll just kind of say this. I'll say this and I'll go back to the media landscape. If you think about business models, okay, if you and I go to a hotel, how do hotels make money? Let's just say you and I own a hotel with 2,000 beds.
Right.
Okay. When we get our report from the guy that's running the hotel, what number do we want at the end of the month? We want to know out of the 31 days this month times 2,000 beds, that's 60,000 times that these beds could have been rented. How many times were they rented? Okay. And I say, well, we were at 89%. Can we get it to 92%? So what do we need? We need people staying in our hotel to make money. That's our business model. The business model of a hotel isn't to have only 10% of the rooms being used. You need people to stay out. Okay. So what's the business model of hospitals?
I must be totally different, right?
Right. So we need those beds to be filled. And by the way, do you know the kind of numbers do you know what is a number one industry for the number one industry? If you ask right now, what's the number one industry of the most money they did last year? You know what most people would say? They'd say energy, oil. That's only $500 billion. Yeah. You know what's number one? Hospitals.
Yeah.
$1.5 trillion. And when they ask them on how much you charge for a basic surgery, bypass, or whatever it is, their range is from, $44,000 up to $580,000. Why is that range such a big range? And by the way, who controls your pricing? And do you guys have to report on what it really costs you to do this? And I think under Trump, I don't know if you remember this, in 2020, 2021, he kind of came out with a law forcing hospitals to report honestly, like, here's what you're doing. I think out of 500 hospitals they audited, 471 never even completed their numbers on what they're costing. So they're charging people. So most people think it's providers making a lot of money. Providers are not making a lot of money. They're losing money. The people that are making money is hospitals. So hospital models, I need sick people. Big pharma models, I need new diagnosis. The more new diagnoses I have, the more new drugs I can sell. So I need new drug diagnosis. What is the a contractor's model, military contractor? I need war. If we don't have war, how the hell are we going to make money? If I go to mainstream media, what do I need? Controversy, conflict, chaos. That's how I make my money. When you actually look at the business model of what these guys are doing, they need chaos and problems to keep making money. Okay. So that part is a very concerning thing. So going back to mainstream media, 3 things keeping them in:
boomers,
big pharma, boomers, and
sports.
So now what sports is happening is a lot of these sports guys are realizing cable's not paying well. I'm going to go sign a contract with Peacock, with Netflix, with Amazon, with all these guys. They're paying good money. They got a lot of money. These other guys are dying. Some of these smaller sports market are saying, I don't want you to play it on TV. Forget about it. Means nothing to me what you're paying me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out there and put it on my own OTT. I'm going to put it on my over the top. You want to watch the game? You can only see it on the Phoenix Suns over the top. So holy shit. Cable's like, no. Don't do that. That's problematic. Now the small market TV is getting crushed. So cable, problematic. They got to figure out a solution there. Let's go to conservative side. On the conservative side, you got Daily Wire that they're dealing with, whatever happened between Candace and Ben, which has been a problem that they've been trying to clean up. Whatever the reasons are behind it, that's, the landscape of what they did, decision-making process, you kind of saw a few different things. Everybody, whether it's from October 7th, specifically from October 7th is a place to go. Everybody you can tell, like if we're living in LA and we're trying to find out what gang everybody is in, okay, those guys are MS-13. These guys are Blood. They're Crip. They're this. They're that. You all of a sudden saw, okay, these guys are Israel above all. These guys are conservative above all. These guys are debate above all. These guys are discourse above all. This is curiosity. This is built on pure money and profit and wanting to sell and be a SPAC and go on the stock market and sell, and I'm a billionaire. No problem. But what you did filter out in the last, it was accelerated. It was like, boom. We learned about everybody in 6 months.
Yeah.
From October 7th. It was everybody got exposed. And now they're trying to backtrack. Well, no, not really. Well, no, not really. Well, no, not really. And that, well, no, not really is going to be tough because you have to maneuver through a lot of the stuff that you said in the last 6-7 months. And the market's going to hold everybody accountable for what you said. Those clips are not going away, right?
So what's their future look like?
Who specifically?
Daily Wire.
Daily Wire. What's their future look like? I don't know. I don't know their board. I know they have the factoring of fracking guys, the oil billionaire guys, that based on what I hear from people, they're Jews for Jesus and good guys. You have to sit there and ask yourself, okay, if you make this decision the way you did, no problem. We'll support your decision. Is there a board in Daily Wire? I don't know. Do Jeremy Boring and Ben Shapiro have a board to process when they're making a big decision? Maybe, maybe not. If they do, board is held accountable. Was it a good decision? Was it not? If they don't, then the money people have to say, well, you give a lot of, freedom to these guys to make the decision. So then the money people are going to go out there to want to raise more money. And who can you now go to raise money? You can definitely go to every single billionaire that's Jewish and say, hey, look what we did. You should be proud of us. Here's a position we took. No problem. We'll give you $200 million. And there's a lot of money there. That money's not going away. And that money's all over the place. So if somebody is pro-Israel and there's a lot of money there, that's an unlimited access to money. So right. I don't think that's going to go away. People are like, oh my God, Daily Wire is going to go. No, they're not. They got money. And there's plenty of people that are going to back them up. Then you have to see who backs them up. What media organizations behind closed doors, what institutions, organizations will go after anybody that says anything bad about them. In what way? Defamation? Digging up stories? Articles? Is that what they're going to do? Who knows? Character assassination? Nobody knows. That's speculative to see what they're going to be doing. So
it sounds like you're saying that October 7th split the right.
In a big way.
In a big way?
In a big way. In a big way. Massive way. And like imagine what Lincoln Project did to 2020, where, we had all these guys on it and the reports came out, this guy's pedophile, that guy's this. It was just a complete mess when we, when we had this conversation. One of the most fieriest one we had. Schmidt and Vinny went at it. It was viral all over the place.
You had Steve Schmidt on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've had a lot of weird people on. We've had
He's
Anthony
a really,
Weiner on.
I know him well. I've known him for 25 years,
Yeah.
literally 25, almost 30. He's really a damaged character. Whoa. But not stupid.
Yeah, definitely not stupid. But damaged makes sense because you feel his rage. Like he's really got some, I don't know if it's anger issues or true hatred for certain people. So now imagine Lincoln Project. Now you got multiple of them that's going through it. Yeah. And by the way, a part of DeSantis Trump was also not a good thing. I think we'll recover from that. No problem. I think DeSantis is making the right moves right now, getting closer to Trump, building that relationship. I'm here to support you. I think that's the right move for him to make. I wish he would have done it earlier, but never too late for him to take that route. But I think
why didn't he get the nomination
for VP or for what
for president?
Oh,
I think he
no,
ran for the
no,
Republican
no.
nomination.
No, I listen. I think there was a.
Is that a dumb question?
No, listen. I said this. To me, he's not a alpha to be a one. He's a flag carrier.
Yep.
And sometimes flag carriers that, like, he needs to go read the book 48 Laws of Power. I don't know if you read the book 48 Laws of Power. He needs to go read 48 Laws of Power by himself. Don't tell anybody about it. If he sees this, okay, he needs to go read 48 Laws of Power and realize the number one mistake DeSantis made is law number one. That's all he needs to do. That's all I'm going to say.
What's law number one?
Law number one is never outshine your master. And that's what he did. You don't ever do that, okay? And in this case, master is a bad word to use, but you can replace masters with the guy that helped you become a governor.
Yeah.
You never outshine that guy. That is the kiss of death when you do that. You cannot do that because that person forever is going to know that secretly you always want to take him out to have his throne. And once that's out there, that guy cannot in the back of his mind ever take that away from his brain. It's always going to be here. It's going to be like, oh, I know where you're at. Okay, no problem. Oh, no, but you, no, I know what you want. I know deep down inside you want my throne. No problem. Versus a role he could have played like a Godfather. What is it? That Robert Duvall plays. I always butcher his name. Is Tom Hagner? What's the guy's name? The consigliere to the boss. You obviously watch many movies from just seeing all these questions.
Not too many movies, like none.
Very obvious. You're a big movie guy here. But no, I think that's the part. I think once he did that, it was bad for him. But he's 45. He's got plenty of run rate. He just needs to be a phenomenal flag carrier. And
but can a flag carrier ever ascend to the alpha position?
For sure. Biden was a flag carrier.
Yeah.
For sure. George Bush Sr. is a flag carrier. Nixon was a flag carrier. You know, there's the model of flag carrier is actually very easy to be a president. Ulysses S. Grant was a flag carrier, right? And then boom, he became two-term. Not necessarily the best president, but they did become a president. So if he's solving for being a president, you can do it, but you got to be a great flag carrier. Most of the time, flag carriers are not the best communicators. Most of the time, flag carriers are not the best to get up there and do what they do. They need somebody to edify them. So if you're not the best orator, speaker, you're a very good day-to-day getting policies and stuff done, which he can do. He's a very smart guy. You need a big orator with a big mic to defend you and back you up. He lost that mic, and he's got to figure out a way to gain that mic back for 2028.
Fascinating. I think correct.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said a second ago. You said that, in fact, you even looked at me like it was a dumb question, which it probably was. October 7th was a pivot point in conservative media, and it divided it. How and why, and is it permanent?
Oh, man. I mean, listen, anybody that's a big talent, deep down inside, there's probably some ego, a lot of ego, like I'm better than you ego, I'm smarter than that guy. And, you know, it's tough to admit to a mistake while you're going through it. Some of these guys made massive mistakes, right? Now, the problem...
Like what?
The position you take with Candace, that's a problematic position. Now, to give him credit, he came out and said, you know, Daily Wire is not a platform. We're a publisher. As a publisher, we can let go of anybody. You're right.
Yeah.
Totally fine. You can do that for sure. And then the argument is, well, you know, we had Dave Rubin on, and Rubin says, well, you know, you don't know the whole story and, you know, what's going on there. And she had said something and da-da-da-da-da. Okay. Yeah, she questioned certain questions. Now, you may say, we're not comfortable with this. No problem. But your position when, you know, you knock off, you go after, you know, Candace talking about Crisis King, and then you're playing the games. And then if the story comes out, the fact that they use Candace asking Ben for a debate as a form of getting the gag order, if that story comes out, let's just say that story is true. I think Glenn Greenwald reported on it. If that is true, If it's not true, well, then Glenn Greenwald's got to go through it and say what he's got to say. But if that story is true, that they used the tweet from Candace to almost lure her in and then call the lawyers to, if that story ever comes out in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, if that comes out, that's very problematic, because talent is going to have to feel comfortable going somewhere. Great talent is going to have to go somewhere that they feel safe, they feel protected. A Dana White is a great case study for this. Conor McGregor, a diva, loud, problematic sometimes, chaotic. Dana knows how to work with him. Okay, Phil Jackson, nobody wanted Dennis Rodman. Phil knows how to work with Dennis Rodman. Come here, we'll win. He goes to the Lakers, come here, we'll win. They did, right? And before Chuck Daly, who was a coach of the Pistons, you know, Draymond Green, Steve Kerr can handle him, right? Sometimes talent, if you look at how they are, there needs to be somebody that knows how to work with them as well. You have to show as a publisher, as a media company, that you know how to get talent, build them up, and also you know how to, behind closed doors, to massage and work with them while they're going through their changes as a talent. If you don't know how to manage ego and manage divas, you're eventually going to lose your best talent to elsewhere that knows how to do that. And number two, the divas are always going to be scared of someone like you, because that's the one thing they don't want. They don't want to go to a place to be like, hey, here's what I need you to do. And then what eventually ends up happening is the following. Eventually, look at Fox's reputation. You got Bill O'Reilly, you got Beck, you got Megan, you got you. Okay? What do all four of you guys have in common?
I know them all.
Of course you do. You guys were all number one. You guys crushed it on cable TV for God knows how many years. And you guys all had a ugly falling out at the end. Fox has to rebuild that reputation if they want to attract talent like that. If not, what they're going to end up catching themselves doing is, especially at a time where more people are realizing, I don't need you. This is very problematic. Like, it's not like the leverage is on them. They can, the way some of these media companies are acting today, they could have gone away with that 20 years ago. You can't today, because talent has a choice. They didn't have a choice 20 years ago. Where am I going to go 20 years ago? Think about it. 20 years ago, if I'm working for CNN or MSNBC and I got a show, and Rachel Maddow and whatever, Brian Stelter and, you know, all the guys that you, and all of a sudden they go super left and you're in between the Maddow show. Boom. You know what? I just don't think they have a place for me. This guy's done.
Wait, that actually happened to me.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm reading. And so
I was like, that sounds so familiar.
Right. And, well, you know, and then Jon Stewart, you know, well, let me tell you, you just got to stop. By the way, that would be a very good, interesting podcast if you ever do with Jon Stewart.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it would be. I mean, it would be interesting. I want to be a good sport about it.
I think the world would watch it.
Yeah, I mean, the world would watch all kinds of ugly things. But I just try to think. I have such contempt for him. I guess maybe that would make it hard. I like interviewing people I disagree with. Chris Cuomo, I interviewed, and you know, I totally disagree with Chris Cuomo on so much, and I've made fun of him so much. I've been really mean to him, but I don't have contempt for Chris Cuomo at all, actually. But Jon Stewart, I have total contempt for him. I think he's like, I have no respect at all. And I never have. And that hasn't changed in the 20 years since I last saw him. So it's hard to interview. Have you ever interviewed someone you have no respect for at all?
Of course.
It's hard.
Of course it is.
I don't like it.
It's not easy.
It's like, I don't give a shit what you say.
Yeah.
I mean, you're pathetic.
Yeah.
It's not even your real name. Like, everything about you is fake. You're just fake. And you're kind of a dumb person posing as a smart person. Like, everything about it. Ugh, barf. So I don't know if I could do that.
No, I understand. And I can only imagine, because I'm the viewer. I'm not even you to know what the real context is.
When I interviewed the creepy porn lawyer, Michael Avenatti, he's a very menacing person and, you know, not a great person, obviously. And I totally disagree with him. On the other hand, he had kind of an energy that I didn't disrespect. I mean, he's just like a very energetic guy.
Right.
But Jon Stewart's like a freaking NPR listener who takes it seriously. He's just like, I'm just so over that. It's so mediocre.
You know what would be interesting about it? Because from the scene of him coming and trying to bully you guys to where you are today, you won. That's the point.
Well, I thought I won then.
Well,
it just shows I'm a little out of it.
But you may have won.
Oh, I lost in the court of public opinion for sure.
Right, that's the part. But today, it's not even a conversation.
Yeah. So you were talking about the media business, and I'd asked you. You said October 7th really split conservative media. Yes. It did permanently?
No, not at all. No, people are going to have their certain people, yes. But for the most part, look at Marco Rubio. Oh, he's considered a vice presidential potential. What? After what happened, Hans? Yeah, and people move on. People,
Right.
This is a very media politics sport. You talk shit, you get pissed, cannot believe it, cliquish, all this stuff. And then eventually somebody typically behind closed doors says, what matters more, your ego or America? Well, can I have both? Not all the time. Okay, then America. You're going to raise your kids here? Yes. All right, let's figure this thing out and
Smart.
we move on, right?
I agree with that completely. I'm surrounded by people who I once hated. So yes, I feel that way really, really strongly. Chris Cuomo, though, who I've already said I like, and I mean it, and I think is talented, is having trouble, from my read, re-entering the conversation. People are still mad at Chris Cuomo about COVID. That's is that your take on it?
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, even more now, by the way. And
More now?
I think it's more now. And here's why it's more now. Because at least 4 years ago, one side loved him and the other side hated him 4 years ago. Now both sides hate him. You may say, why? Very simple. So he was there to the left, to the establishment. He was a hero.
Yes.
You should take the vaccine. What is all this horse, ivermectin stuff? What's this all about? You're being irresponsible, Byron Donalds. Yes, what a great citizen Cuomo is, right? Face of CNN, Big Pharma, and all these guys. We like what he's doing, right? And the writer's like, why are you making me take it? I don't want to take it. Let it be my choice. Now, you mean to tell me you're going from that position to on the podcast saying, I'm taking ivermectin now? And yeah, I guess Joe Rogan was right. You're saying that now?
And I'm vax injured.
And I'm not only vax injured, and then when I ask him if COVID comes back in 2026 and they're forcing everybody to take the vaccine, would you take it? He says, absolutely not. So you wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take it. Okay. So obviously when he says that, you have to keep in mind that how does Fauci feel about that? Probably not good. How is people from CDC, the doctors, how do they feel about it? Probably not good. How about some of the people from his side that were all on his show and he was taking care of them, defending them? They can't stand him right now because what he's doing is he's bringing back something that's been under the rug and almost disappeared. Because everybody's now talking about what? Immigration. Everybody's talking about all these other issues.
Right.
And immigration, election 2024. Yeah, what happened? What about the gain of function? Yeah, but forget about it. But let's focus on all this stuff.
Yeah.
What about what China did?
Let's talk about October 7th.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah,
so I think what he's doing is a massive risk.
But wait a second. It doesn't. Okay, so what you're saying makes sense on one side. Clearly his former allies are mad. They feel betrayed. He's exposing the lies. But doesn't that give him new allies? I mean, I'm having dinner tonight, for example, with Glenn Greenwald, who I love and consider a friend of mine.
Sure.
And Glenn Greenwald must have written 50 pieces attacking me 20 years ago.
Right.
But then we aligned on a couple of big issues, real issues. And I'm happy to be friends with Glenn Greenwald. I've changed my views on a lot of issues. I believe in repentance. I think change is essential. As the facts change, so should your conclusions. Like, this is all good. And so normally the once was lost, now I'm found people find a new home. But he doesn't seem to have found a new home.
No, because he hasn't repented and asked for forgiveness. And that's not easy to do. So
it's so easy to do.
But
it's the easiest thing there is. I fucked up. I'm sorry. Like, that's the most simple, liberating act in life.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. So here's a question for you. You're married, right? Your
Quite.
family.
Yeah.
You have your kid. You got your thing. You got your community. Imagine all of a sudden you get so close to Fauci and you're all of a sudden hanging out with Rachel Maddow. You guys are best friends. And you're hanging out with all these guys on the left. And suddenly you sit there and say, no, the right was wrong. Everybody should take the vaccine. Everybody should go through it. Okay. So imagine you take a position like that suddenly. How's your wife feel about it? How's your family feel about it? How do your lineage of what you've done, your history, where you come from, how do they feel about it? So You have to sleep next to your wife. Now, so for Chris, as he's going through this process, and you're talking to the guy off camera, my kids absolutely love this guy when he comes in. He wrestles, does jujitsu with my kids. They're doing this, they're doing that. Off camera, we have the most fieriest arguments. Hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, just absolute like boom, boom, boom. And then, hey, okay, man, I'll talk to you next week. Done, right? And a part of me, I'm not speaking on his behalf, this is something he needs to make a decision for himself, is when I go through it and I process it, he gives me zero vibes of somebody's on the left. Zero.
Chris Cuomo?
No, he's not somebody.
Not even a little bit.
Let me explain what I mean.
It's almost like being around someone who like is not in touch with himself, and he doesn't know what everyone else knows about him. And Chris Cuomo, you look at Chris Cuomo, it's like, you are in no sense a liberal temperamentally.
No, he's not. He's not a liberal. Now, he may be a center-left guy. Okay, fine. He may be a center-right guy, economically right. Vaccine, not for it now, doesn't like what happened with it. When he thinks about certain things with military, there's so many things that you can go on, but the guy's going, he is risen. You know who's the only person that texts me when it's Easter or any of these? And first guy that texts me, it's him. So spiritually, what he's going through. These are all stuff that you look at like, okay, maybe he's going through it. Maybe he's going through what he's doing right now. But for him to come out.
He's afraid of the feminists. That's part of it. I can feel that. I said that to him, right to him. He's afraid if you care what the feminists think, and obviously you shouldn't because it's so degrading to care what they think, but then you have to mouth certain lies and you're like required because you're afraid of the screechiness.
Yeah.
But they don't respect you more for repeating their lies. They actually see you as a bitch when you do that. They want you to be strong. They're feminists in the first place because they haven't been around men who are just honest and direct and strong. So you cannot be afraid of them. And I really get the feeling like he can't say certain things because he's afraid of the feminists.
I put something above that, though. I put his last name and his family above.
Yeah, well, I get that, though. I have total sympathy for Chris.
That's number one. Well, his father, his brother, I put that as number one. And I feel like if he comes out and fully flips, he gets that. And the other part for me is
What can I say? I respect that.
Yeah.
I do. That's the one thing you're not being a bitch for, respecting your father's legacy or remaining close to your brother. Like, you should do that. So I feel for him.
Right. And then there's the other part of, the school of thought of when you apologize, they will forever come after you. You should be careful to apologize. Never apologize. There's that community as well.
Who are those people? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Whoever's in your ear. Whoever
never
tells you
apologize? You look like a fool if you don't apologize.
You should not apologize. If they do, they will come after you for the rest of your life.
No, you should apologize only when you mean it. That's the rule. Don't lie. So, of course, you never apologize. If you get caught up in some fake Me Too thing and you're like, I should have been more sensitive to unhappy 39-year-old unmarried women. No.
What mistakes did you make that you apologize on?
Oh, my God. Me?
Give 3 of them.
Being drunk a lot, sorry. And I mean that. Supporting the Iraq War, working for Bill Kristol, being used to attack Pat Buchanan, basically being used because when I was younger as a writer, because I was just not aware of the larger cross currents and I didn't follow my own instincts. I followed orders. Those are the marks of a weak man, and I'm embarrassed of that. And I would by the way, I apologize all the time. As long as it's sincere, then you win. Lying makes you weak. Telling the truth makes you strong. It's super simple.
It's crazy. Check this out. So one day, this is when all my content was on entrepreneurship, and we were running the top channel on YouTube for entrepreneurship. If you would have typed in entrepreneur, 50 videos pulls up on the search. Half of them were ours. We just owned the word entrepreneur, okay? And that led into the consulting from Bedavid Consulting. You go to bedavid.com or Manect. All that stuff. That's the entrepreneur side. We would look at what words in the titles would do best. Words, okay? So let's go through a couple of them. Rules, very good word for YouTube. 20 rules of whatever. 10 rules of whatever. So rules, for whatever reason, great word for YouTube. People want to get rules. 12 rules for life, Jordan Peterson. 20 rules for money. 7 million views on YouTube that I did 10 years ago. And people want to learn the rules of money. Basic video. It's nothing crazy about it. 20 rules for money. Okay. Another word. And I'm kind of going through this thing. As an entrepreneur. As a whatever. So, 7 keys to success. As a parent. As an entrepreneur. As a journalist. As a doctor. as a student, as a whatever at the end of the title. Okay. So that end of the title triggers back as a student. I'm a student. Boom. That audience, it's an evergreen title. People keep coming back and watching it, right? These are words. You know what's one of the most powerful words that we would put on titles? Absolutely crush it. Mistakes.
Yeah.
10 mistakes I made. Okay. So now, running an insurance company, anytime you and I would go up and we would only talk about the things we did right, one of the worst speeches you give.
Of course.
Nobody feels they can do it. So what I would do is sometimes I would get my best guys and some guys that have gone through some stuff, and let's just say their ego is not allowing it, and I'm picking the topics for my guys. And all our guys already know what this is all about. I would say, you have 20 minutes at MGM Grand Arena. I want you to talk about the 10 biggest mistakes you made in your career. And they knew that would give me the smirk. Oh, shit, I'm going through it, right? So then we'd go to the event. And then there's ways you spin mistakes. Well, the mistakes I made is trusting people too much.
Exactly.
And it's always like
caring too much.
I don't know if you care. Like
I'm too good a person.
The mistake is always on the other person. Like, Diddy's apology. Hey, I
Totally
never
agree.
mentioned Cassie, never
Totally
this, right?
agree.
But I think
It's disgusting to watch that.
it's disgusting to watch that. But one of the most attractive qualities of a human being, there's a lot of qualities you look at like, I just don't like that guy. Man, I want to like you. I can't like you.
Yes.
You're annoying. One of the most attractive qualities of a human being is self-deprecation.
Of course.
When you can sit there and self-deprecate, laugh at yourself, make fun of yourself, the audience is like, man, what?
But why is that so appealing? Think it through.
Because none of us walk on water. We all make mistakes.
Because it telegraphs strength.
Yeah.
That's what strong people do. Who refuses to apologize? Who refuses to admit fault? Who refuses to admit being human, making a mistake? People who are so fragile, they can't admit it. Weak people hide their weaknesses. Strong people are happy to admit them because they're transparent. They've got nothing to hide. That's a sign of strength. It's the surest sign of strength. In fact, it's the only sign of strength. So not apologizing diminishes you dramatically. You're fearful. That's why you can't apologize, right?
Yeah, but he's got to, again.
And I'm not talking about Chris specifically, who I really like. And I will say, just to be very clear, again, if he can't fully apologize for things he said that were demonstrably wrong because he doesn't want to dishonor the memory of his father,
right,
or alienate his brother, I respect that. I do.
Yeah.
It's worth wrecking your career to remain loyal to your family.
You know what I learned? We're on the same page there. Here's what I learned. Whoever you speak to, the last 3 people you speak to before you go to sleep have the most influence over you. The last 3 people you speak to before you go to sleep.
What if it's a dog?
Well, that's good influence then.
Yeah,
that's a very good listener.
In my case,
one of mine
is
a very intimidating, massive. I don't know if you're into big dogs. I have a 15-pound Shih Tzu, extremely intimidating. But this guy loves me, and he makes me feel very confident. By the way,
that's what matters.
He believes in me,
yes.
and that's where I get my.
It's love, no matter how embarrassing the dog, as long as he loves you.
He's amazing to me.
That's
He's been my number 1 therapist for 15 years. But so when you look at the last 3 people you speak to, I can't take inventory of that. But who are you talking? What do you think? What do you think? Sometimes you want to go through somebody and ask, what do you think? Maybe it's your wife. Maybe it's your brother. Maybe it's a former mentor. Maybe it's a father. Maybe whoever your what do you think community is the reason why you're making the decision the way that you are.
That's for sure.
The better the what do you think community you have, the better way you handle conflicts. I don't know the what do you think community is for Chris.
That's a really smart point. What's your relationship with him now? You're in a business relationship, right?
We're doing a debate next. Dave Smith called him out, and I know you're a Dave guy. I like Dave a lot. Dave's a talent.
Oh, yeah, I love Dave.
Yeah, Dave's I think he's a star that can be a superstar in the right environment. That guy has what it takes to really strive. Anybody that gets a chance to sign him, they should. And if he kind of signs with somebody long-term, 5 years, he finds a way.
Should he be a comedian or a political commentator?
I think he cares about policies more than comedy. I think, he likes comedy. I think that's his creative side. But he has a serious side that he needs to find a way to tap into it. I don't know what his vision is. He knows what he wants to do with his life. But Dave and Chris will be having a Friday night debate at our Comedy Club Cigar Lounge in Fort Lauderdale, May 31st, 6 to 9 p.m. Live audience.
Who's going to win?
Whoever is straight up and doesn't play politics.
It's asymmetrical, though, because Chris has, and I like them both, but first of all, Dave is a formidable debate opponent.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
For real.
Yeah.
And very smart as a debater. I can say that guy is good. But second, Dave can say whatever he wants. He's not, you know what I mean? He's already made his break with,
That's right.
Family members who disagree with him or whatever, but he's totally unencumbered. And Chris is from a very famous family, brother and dad who were governor of the state of New York. It's like, it's hard.
I can tell you every day I visualize people calling him, telling him not to do it. Every single day. Every day, someone's telling him don't do the podcast in their own creative way. And I said this when I announced it, okay? So when it happens, the side of the establishment that doesn't want all this, the CDC guy comes out and you saw what he said. Hey, did you guys do any kind of gain of function? Rand Paul is asking Fauci, 2021. No, we didn't do any. There was no such thing of gain of function. And then they asked the new guy, the CDC guy, I don't know if you saw this or not. Is there any such a, well, in the general, way of looking at this, yes, there was gain of function. No, it's not general or not. Was there or was there not? Yes, there was. You think that community wants more eyeballs going to this? No. So
why is no one in prison? I mean, if you're doing gain of function research, in other words, if you're trying to make dangerous viruses more infectious and more dangerous in a world with a demonstrated history of lab leaks, thank you, Lyme disease, and all the rest that we know, COVID, have come from labs. Like you're gambling with the lives of millions of people. Like, why should you be allowed to do that? I mean, they're trying to put Trump in prison for the rest of his life on a documents charge. You brought home documents that are technically classified, but the guys doing gain of fucking function research are walking free? Like, what?
How bad do you want to know to investigate those people?
Investigate? I mean, I think we know.
Oh, but the point is to hold them accountable to it, right? How bad?
Well, it's just absolutely crazy. We're mad at, guys with nose rings protesting outside Columbia. Right. I mean, whatever. I'm not on their side, but like, who cares, actually?
But the reason why I'm asking you this question is, in order for that to happen, if the establishment from the left or the right is in office, you will never find out, ever find out. This is why we need more guys from the anti-establishment side to say, I'm really curious to the point where I'm going to go in there and find out.
Well, how would you assess Bobby Kennedy?
I think Bobby Kennedy is a form of anti-establishment. And if I'm able to give people a score of reason, okay, and a true believer. So meaning, can this guy truly reason? So you got family pride and stuff that's, part of your legacy. And he's got the most powerful last name on the left. I think that's way ahead of Cuomo's. It's Kennedy. There is no level of Kennedy, right? Okay, cream of the crop at that level. So what's his score for being able to reason? I think it's pretty high. I give him a high score for reasoning. On the podcast that we did together was like a town hall. People are asking questions. I asked him, I said, so what do you stand with, puberty blockers and transgender and all this stuff? I said, honestly, I haven't done enough research to be for or against it. I said, Bobby, you can't say that.
Because it's not true.
And by the way, you know what he said, though? If you posted the video, which went viral this 2 weeks ago, people were sharing it all over the place on Twitter. On the bottom, he said he changed his position on this 4 months ago and no longer supports it. Great. Guess what? That's a form of progress reason you're making that you could say, I was wrong. Here's where I stand with this now. Okay? All right, no problem. Vaccine. I'm sure you read the Fauci book he wrote. An absolute masterpiece of a book he writes. Okay, so he's got the COVID community, the vaccine community that didn't want to be forced to take it, who don't like Fauci. He's got that side. I put him as an anti-establishment, but I still think he's got a lot of stuff that's on the left as a Democrat, even though he's an independent. But I think he's a necessary voice. I do think he's going to get in the way, though.
Of
Trump.
So the Trump people, I was talking to someone in his orbit several months ago, and my instinct was exactly what you just said. If you're against the status quo, you're by definition not voting for Joe Biden. So Kennedy takes, in other words, there's nobody who's choosing between Joe Biden and Bobby Kennedy. It's just that person doesn't exist. And so by definition, it's going to take from Trump. And the response I got was, oh, he was really liberal on this, that, and the other thing, or is really liberal. And okay. But big picture, it seemed obvious to me he was going to hurt Trump.
There's no question about it.
Right.
There's no question. So the part which is kind of weird is when Biden's camp doesn't want to give him protection, doesn't want to put him on the stage. Again, this goes back to me wondering, either you have something up your sleeves or you really think you have such an October surprise that you're going to leak to the world that Bobby's going to step out like the way they did with Herman Cain, 999. Oh, I'm going to have to pause my campaign. So maybe there is something that you and I don't know about. What's going to come out? The guy's been around for a long time, 69, 70-year-old guy, family, girls, good looking, accolades, background. What are they hanging on to that they're not leaking yet? I don't know. So why are they not afraid of the guy? And why are they? These are all things that I wonder on what the left has, the establishment has, that they know they're going to
Maybe they're just dumb. They're dumber than we think.
I think they're more deceptive than you think.
Well, they're definitely more deceptive.
Yeah, I think they're
but maybe they believe their own bullshit. I mean, the peril of huffing your own fumes, of like convincing yourself that Kamala Harris is like impressive or something, or that Biden's not senile. Like, I think people are capable of...
You think that's what it is, though? Or you think it's more like it's an easier person to control? I mean, if you look at people who raise money, right? Like if you go do a case study of people that ran for president, who are our top 4 non-establishment candidates of the last 70 years? Okay. Kennedy, partially Reagan, Trump, and then who else you got? That's non-establishment last 60 years. Okay, Ross Perot. That's right. Ross Perot got to what? 19 points. Reagan, I think 9.6% of the funding for him running for office was his own money. I think was that number. Hillary Clinton, 100% donor funded. Biden, pretty much 100%. John F. Kennedy's father, Joseph, I think put 40 or 50% of it. Trump, you know how much of it was his in 2016? Obama needed everybody needed other people's money. So whoever that needs other people's money is controlled by the other people, which is the ideal candidate. So Kamala, for them, is like, that is the ideal person for them because they can control and say, hey, check mark. For the rest of your life, your Wikipedia is going to say vice president. Congratulations to you. Legacy cemented. We'll make a documentary for you, give you a Medal of Honor. You're good to go. Amazing. Go make some documentaries and go to, whatever the shows are on, and you're going to be famous. Good for you, right? That's gone. But to me, a part of it, when they're looking at Kamala's or Biden, that's their favorite types of candidates. They don't like RFKs. Are you kidding?
But she's not, I mean, I think it's fair to say she's not electable on her own.
No, she's not.
So if you had to get her out of the way, Biden obviously incapacitated by mental decline, Kamala repugnant as a person, how do you fix that?
For this or 2028? For what?
This.
There's only one person you can do it with. Only one person.
Who?
It's only Michelle. There's nobody else you can do it with. Let's play it out. Okay, let's play it out.
You don't think she's more disgusting?
No. To the left, she is the number one person on the leaders bulletin. She's the number one draft pick for the left, maybe even ahead of Newsom, Michelle. But let me, again, my opinion, I could be wrong. I'm just giving you my POV on this. So, okay. So let's play it. You get rid of Kamala and you put in Newsom, which they would love to have Newsom as a VP. And then you transition out, well, Biden's going to be stepping down June of 2025. Newsom's now the president. What an easy way of getting Newsom elected. The easiest way of getting Newsom elected is bring him in. But okay, you announce Kamala is stepping down. Great. What ammunition do you give to the greatest troll of all time on the other side to call you racist? It's done. What's Trump going to do if you get rid of Kamala and put Newsom in? Look what they did. All they talk about is female power and blacks and all this stuff. They put her back on the bus and they replace her with Newsom. Shame on the Democrats. They're the most racist. I mean, can't you already see it? Easy playbook for them, right? So, but if they bring in, instead of Kamala, Kamala comes in and there's not enough time for a Supreme Court justice type of a position, but say Kamala comes in behind closed doors, say Kamala, you come out and you say something's going on with the family. Something happened.
I don't think she has a family, does she?
Cancer scare, whatever. Something's going on. Cancer scares are the easiest one, okay? because cancer, everyone's going like, oh my God, and hey, God willing, we were able to avoid a chemotherapy and she didn't have to go through it. And this is so, thank you for all your prayers that none of this stuff happened. And they came to me and we were talking, and as a collective, I think Newsom is the most qualified. That's going to be problematic. But if you bring Michelle in, that's easy. It's a very easy fit to bring her in. The question then becomes, does Michelle want to be a VP? Is her ego a VP person? Does she want to come out of the life?
Can I intercede for one sec? So she's never had a real job in her life.
This is who?
Sorry?
This is Michelle or Kamala?
Yeah, Michelle.
Okay.
She's like, has nothing in common with any American. She's nasty. She's a hater, clearly. She's utterly ungrateful for every special advantage she's been given her entire life. She went to Princeton on a free ride and she's mad at Princeton? Really? I mean, everything about her is like mediocre, mean, dumb, and not a single achievement in her entire life other than marrying this guy in a fake marriage. So, like, on what grounds could that person run the country?
Don't be naive, Tucker. You're talking about women. You're being super naive. Are you kidding me? Do you know which one of these political figures sold 36 million copies of her book? One person.
Her book about what?
It doesn't matter.
More whining from a rich lady?
36 million people bought her book, bro. Do you realize like the amount of influence this?
But let's just pause and consider that decision. You're walking through Barnes and Noble or Walmart, and you see Michelle Obama's book for sale.
Yep.
What causes you to buy something like that?
You're talking from your perspective?
Any person, like, this is a book that she not only didn't write, but probably hasn't read. Like, why would you buy something? And then you have Michelle Obama's name, like, in your house.
Yeah.
Like, what signal are you sending? Like, what could possibly compel you to do something like that?
You can say all that you want.
No, but it's true. Like, what is that?
But that's not the point. The point is, she is a rock star for the left. She is a rock star for the left. She'll be edified and glorified by everybody.
They love anything that's ugly and bad and mediocre, don't they?
People have different tastes, man.
No, but that's not even a taste. It's like, look, you could say of Al Sharpton, who I vehemently disagree with, but there, like Al Sharpton's a self-created person, actually, and Al Sharpton's pretty smart, and Al Sharpton's got a lot of things about Al Sharpton that are bad, for sure. But at least Al Sharpton's like kind of lived a life. Michelle Obama, same with Trump. Maybe you hate Trump. Okay, you think he's vulgar, you think he was, but he's like a self-created guy, #1 TV show in the country. Like Michelle Obama has literally done nothing except whine about the white man for 60 years. Like what? That's not a qualification.
You're assuming that doing anything is a qualification to run on the left.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, they zero in on the most repulsive images and people. It's like they're kind of an X-ray, sort of a reverse image of everything that's beautiful and dignified and virtuous.
If she runs, you have no idea how formidable she would be.
But it's like the uglier something is, the more they love it.
Well, maybe that is, again, maybe that's,
physically and spiritually.
Let me ask you a question. Who is more formidable, her or Joe Biden?
I mean, I probably Michelle, I would think.
So then the other question becomes for you
but then you wonder, is there like a bottom to white guilt? Because Michelle Obama's fake husband got him elected because white people got him elected. That wasn't, black people didn't do that.
Yeah.
Is that kind of played out? Like you're electing, we're going to say that a woman who lives in Hawaii, compounds in Hawaii and Martha's Vineyard is somehow like, it's a victory for civil rights or something? Like what would be the rationale? Like, are we at the end of that cycle where people have to vote for someone like that?
So try to, the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's play devil's advocate. You're on the left.
Yeah.
Okay. Who are your top 5 candidates most qualified that you can help as the establishment? You get everybody behind this person. Who's your top 5 draft pick on the left to be a president?
Jimmy Dore.
That would never happen on the left. Are you kidding me? You're so
the actual left. I'd vote for Jimmy Dore.
Jimmy Dore's a stud. He's phenomenal.
He's the best.
At what he does.
Honest man.
Well, think about you're them. You are them. You're in the room with them. Who's their top 5?
I mean, I guess I would. I don't know who's like mentally retarded and transgender. I guess that's sort of, but I'm serious. Like that's how they think. Like,
so you would
what's the most repulsive thing we can do? What's What's the opposite of what's the farthest from the actual truth? Who's the least competent? What's the ugliest building we can build? What's the most putrid painting we can create and call it art?
You wouldn't say Newsom, number one, Michelle, two. You wouldn't go to some of those, you wouldn't go, Gretchen. You wouldn't put that as a top 5. That's their profile of candidates. That's the profile of their...
But those people are jokes.
It's not about being a joke. It's about who they can control and get the job done through them. So,
but what's the job?
Well, are you kidding me? Establish certain controls that nobody can touch.
Just steal shit.
Sure.
That's basically what it is. Let the stealing proceed.
Well, without getting caught, and you create the law. If you create the law, you're protecting yourself. that's
I've noticed.
Yeah. So, by the way, are you following closely what's going on with Iran with Raisi? Did you?
Well, to the extent you can know, yeah. I've certainly followed it.
Are you seeing like
just another aircraft crash? Just a kind of tragic accident.
It happens all the time to presidents of different countries.
It seems to.
What do you think it is? What do you think it is behind? I have some thoughts, but what do you think it is?
It's either an internal power struggle. We talked about this last night, and within Iran, or it's the U.S. or Israel, or a combination of those two. Those are the obvious suspects. I don't know the answer.
So, do you know who Mojtaba Khamenei is?
Sort of, yeah. We talked about it last night.
So he's the second oldest son of the supreme leader Khamenei.
Yes.
Do you know what his net worth is? Just the son's net
Hundreds
worth.
of millions, I would think.
$3 billion.
$3 billion?
Type it in, you'll see it. It's $3 billion. Now,
Damn.
this is reports that are coming in, what he's worth. Now, how is he worth $3 billion? Because he started Twitter. Well, because of course.
He's just an energetic, innovative man.
Unbelievable entrepreneur. Very innovative. He created the Facebook of Iran, right? Mm-hmm. But so this guy is in the running to be the next supreme leader of Iran. There's 2 candidates. There is Ibrahim Raisi, and there is Khamenei's son. Now, Khamenei's family has been estimated to have a net worth of roughly $200 billion. Khamenei's family. How they accumulated that, who knows? Some of the most innovative people in the world, apparently, to get to $200 billion. Innovatively stealing money from taxpayers, innovatively getting money from different places. But regardless, it's innovative on what they've done, right? Why would this family, ultimate nepotism, why would they want Raisi to become the supreme leader?
Fair.
So you have to give a little bit of credibility.
I do.
Because in the past, Rafsanjani, which we kind of talked about last night, Rafsanjani was a guy that died at 82 years old as the president. And he died from a heart attack. That's not what his family believes on what happened to him. So it's very easy for us right off the bat to say, oh, it's Israel. Oh, it's U.S. Oh, you know what? If U.S. wouldn't have put the sanctions on us, we would have had better helicopters, where this wouldn't happen, whatever city was in Tabriz.
Right, got it, yeah.
So, but Iran going through that with some of their power plays they're going to be going through today with Khamenei, it's going to be interesting to see.
Assassinating, a sovereign state, assassinating the leader of another sovereign state, not a good precedent to set, not a good idea, almost no matter who it is. We didn't assassinate Hitler, we didn't assassinate Stalin, we didn't assassinate Mao. There's a reason that you probably don't want to get into the assassinations game, because you don't know where it's going to wind up. And it's reckless, super reckless behavior. So I want to believe what you just said. That does sound like a absolute possibility. But I don't want to believe that states are knocking off one another's leaders, because again, you don't know where that winds up. Maybe there should be a kind of informal agreement not to assassinate each other.
Oh, and yeah, for sure, and not to do it internally. But again, you go back and play the
internally
ambitious
is a totally different game.
This could be a game of ambition, of who wants to control the resources for many, many years to come. And this guy was only 63 years old.
Oh yeah,
Raisi, when he passed away. This is not
the 6 other guys too.
Right. So.
Does the U.S. wind up in a war with Iran?
It's looking like it.
It does look like it.
It's looking like it that we're about to go there.
What do you think of that?
I'm not as worried about it with Iran for a couple different reasons. Iran, now here's the thing. I'll give you both sides of it. The part that I'm not worried about it, Iran's always been, when Trump took out Qasem Soleimani, who was the number 2 guy at the time. This is the guy that was leading pretty much all the proxy wars and all the proxy military, Hezbollah, Houthi. This is a very, very legit power player, Soleimani. So you take him out and you say, I took him out. I did it. My name is Trump. I took him out in your face, right? There's no way we're going to let Trump and America get away with it. Watch what we're going to be doing. They intentionally, threw some missiles in an area where there was no soldiers. So nothing happened. But then they're like, look at us. We showed strength. No, you really didn't. Now, what's changed from Soleimani till today?
A lot.
The
world has changed.
25-year, $400 billion contract from U.S.'s number one, enemy called China. It's during the same time, Russia had an okay relationship with U.S. Now we are in a proxy war with Russia through Ukraine that we're funding left and right.
Well, we're in a direct
NATO,
war. I mean, there are U.S. military personnel fighting Russia from Ukraine.
Well, I want to be a little bit more diplomatic.
Well, it's just true. So I don't think the average person understands just how crazy this has gotten.
On how deep we are there, right? Oh. Okay, yeah. So then Russia's going to side with who? With us or Iran, their neighbor, Caspian Sea. That's who are they going to side with? So this is the part where you're kind of like, so Iran is no longer Iran. Iran is essentially one of the eyes in BRICS.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
India, Iran. So yeah, I don't know. So going up. Remember the story I told you about?
So then it escalates from regional conflict to world war, conceivably, very fast.
I think we're already in world war, just like nobody wants to say it. We were already in a recession a year and a half ago.
How unnecessary is all this? How insane is all this? How does this help my family, my country?
It doesn't help your family, your country, but you have to go back to who the customer is. In order for the military contractors to make money, they need wars. In order for many of these other business models to make money, they need crisis. In order for a Vanguard or a BlackRock to get a $400 billion, I think it's Vanguard, but I do know it's BlackRock, to get a $400 billion contract to rebuild Ukraine, you need Ukraine to be destroyed to rebuild it. If Ukraine isn't destroyed, you don't need to rebuild. These are all great business models for these folks.
But you know how it ends. I mean, it ends with the destruction of everything that's worth having, actually.
Only if they keep the power. Only if they keep the power.
But they can't foresee the future. These are not people with fine motor skills. Like, they overstate their own power and foresight. And once you get into something like this, you have no fucking idea where it ends. You have no idea. Things can go sideways so fast, you can't control events. You think you can, you can't. That's true in your family, and it's true geopolitically. And so, like, you think you got it all fine-tuned. It's like some Rube Goldberg thing, and then this happens, that happens. And what we're going to do is we're going to kick Russia out of SWIFT, and actually that will cause internal revolt within Russia, and they'll depose Putin. And it's like, you can't game this stuff out. There are too many variables, and you could easily wind up in a nuclear exchange.
What do you think their insurance policy is? You think they sit there and worry?
I have no idea. I hope they have submarines, because I don't know how. Like, I think they're actually destroying the country that they live in. That's what I think. And that's why I think it's supernatural.
It's psychotic to me. It's
it is
psychotic to be able to
psychotic.
do that. But in their minds, they're protected. In their minds, they're protected. In their minds, nothing.
But their wealth?
Yeah. In their
These
mind.
people are so stupid.
Yeah.
Money worshippers are so stupid. Oh, my wealth will protect me. Okay. Yeah. How many people have thought that?
A lot.
Jeffrey Epstein thought that.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that.
Yeah.
That's the lie of wealth. It's going to protect you.
Diddy's like, oh, they're not going to do anything to me. And watch what's going to happen to Diddy next. Did you see his
I
apology
haven't
video?
been following the Diddy.
Yeah. Well, they
Mr.
showed
Diddy.
the video of I know you probably listen to a lot of hip hop. You give me the vibes of it, but
I do. Yeah.
So Diddy,
aficionado.
Yeah, I can totally see it. So Diddy is the video comes out of him beating Cassie, his ex-girlfriend. That within 24 hours they settled for $30 million, and that story was gone like a year ago or something like that. So finally, the video comes out from 2016. This video, he's hitting her in the head, pulling her hair, dragging her middle of the hotel.
Who beats women? Like, I don't want to be racist or anything, but like, you're not supposed to beat women, right?
Yeah. Well, Diddy a few years ago was commenting on Chris Brown and Rihanna's controversy on Ellen DeGeneres, and he says, let's just pray for them because we don't know what they're going through. Let's pray for them before we assume what they're going through. Let's just pray for them. So maybe that's what he's going through right now. And then they leaked the video.
So all these guys who grew up with single mothers and are really mad at women. Sorry.
Yeah. Have you seen the numbers of how we went from single mothers in 1960 to today?
The matriarchy leads to wife beating. I'm just telling you that. A man with a strong father does not beat women.
For sure.
You can't beat women. You don't send them off to fight your wars. You don't beat them up. You treat them with respect. That's the man who grew up in a household with a strong father. The man who grew up in a household with a mom, loving but also arbitrary and flaky, that guy hates women. He becomes a womanizer, not in a fun way, in a bad way. Abusive, exploits women, and then he beats them up. And there's a direct connection. You're not going to find many wife beaters who grew up with a strong dad at home, but you'll find a ton who grew up with mom. So that it's one of the many ironies that we don't acknowledge, but we should acknowledge it. If you care about, preventing violence against women, encourage like 2-parent families with like real dads. Like, don't fight the patriarchy, embrace the patriarchy, and you get less wife beating.
So you can. So by the way,
am I right? I'm just taking a check with your wife.
For
here,
sure,
okay?
yeah. So by the way, when you process it that way, that goes back to me thinking we need to change incentives, because in 1960, only 4% of kids were born to a unwed mother, like a single mother. Today, it's 41%, from 4% to 41%.
That's not liberation, right? You don't think?
Oh, you kidding me? That's catastrophic.
Yeah.
That's problematic.
But that's what fighting the patriarchy looks like.
Right.
Beating up women and mugging them on the street, and sending them off to fight your stupid wars. Yeah.
But listen, they're
Women,
not selling family values. They're not selling having kids. They're not selling the value of raising a kid. They're not selling. The incentive program is created to be divorced, to stay single, to keep having kids, to stay on welfare. The incentive program is created for me to stay entitled for my entire life, relying on some kind of a welfare. And by the way, both you and I have 4 kids, right? We're talking about it last night. You got 4 kids. I got 4 kids. Crazy number.
Wish I had 8, but yeah.
I wish I had 20.
Yeah, me too.
We keep
revisit the polygamy thing.
Yeah. Well, we can, again, if we have new policies, we can potentially consider that, right? Okay. I tell my wife, I'd keep her pregnant. She'd have a 3-month break every year, and we'd be pregnant for 20 years. She'd be pregnant for 20 years.
Sounds like fun.
But can you imagine going to dinner? Yeah, we'd like to make a reservation for dinner tonight. How big's your party? Party of 24.
I love that.
I'd love that.
You sit at the end, the patriarch, all the little pups lining down on either side.
You're assuming they don't have girlfriends or boyfriends, so maybe it's like party of 40.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just shut down the restaurant.
That. I want to be a Bedouin tribal leader. Hitting the hubbly bubbly in my tent. Oh, sorry.
Check this out. Watch this. Crazy data.
Yeah.
Crazy data. You ready? So in 1960, every year, 4.3 million kids are born in 1960. Every year in 1960, 1.7 million people roughly die every year. 4.3 born, 1.7 die. It's a net positive of 2.6 million.
Yes.
You're with me so far.
1960.
1960.
But then you murder a president.
That's right. 4 years later, so come to today, that number of kids being born, roughly, number of kids being born, 3.2, 3.3 million. Number of people dying, 2.7, 2.8 million. We went from 2.6 million more people being born than dying to only 500,000 more people being born than dying. Fertility rate, lowest ever in America, 1.6. There's this new trend. I don't know if you've considered joining it or not. It is little rebellious if you're thinking about it. This community called the LGBTQ community. They attract rebellious people. You get to do whatever you want to do. You get to cut things off. It's actually very interesting what's happening with it. It's a new hot thing. I don't know if you're following it.
It sounds like fun.
Obviously, that's going to prevent from having kids because if you cut your dangling off, it's hard to have kids.
But I'm sure that's not part of the plan or anything.
No, they would never do such a thing. It's a noble thing. So, but you look at this. Now, to me, there's a lot of numbers we can look at that's concerning. 2.6 more kids being born, million kids than to 500,000 now, and we're having fewer kids. We're not endorsing marriage, family. All the incentive program is not for that. How much longer until we're sitting here and these folks are living longer and we're not having enough of a replacement? How much longer? I mean, you saw China hit the one-child policy, 1.1. At the bottom of the list right now, I think it's South Korea at 0.83. We're at 1.61.
Well, the obvious solution, if you're South Korea or China, is just invite Haiti to move in. Why aren't they doing that?
That's the noble thing to do. And there's
no, it's absolutely necessary. I mean, who's gonna watch over your elders in long-term memory care?
Yeah, they need a guy. Are you following the Jimmy story with barbecue? The guy named Barbecue in
of course,
Haiti?
in Haiti, yeah.
Yeah.
It, yeah. Where do you want to be in 10 years?
I think I'm not born here, so I can't run for president. That's out.
Yeah.
Okay. I have certain set of values and principles that I'm not compromising, and we're going to fight for as long as we can. If God keeps me healthy, there's only 1% that can fire me. I'm going 40 years. We'll end up having one of the most influential, biggest consulting firms in America, including worldwide. Right now, we consult for roughly 5,000 businesses from 60 countries that we do engagements for. Okay. So that's David Consulting.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Of course.
What does that mean to consult?
So you come in, you're trying to raise capital, you need help putting a pitch deck together, we can help you with that.
Yes.
You're in a place where your marketing campaign isn't working, you want to help us put a better creative marketing campaign for you, we'll help you with that. Your comp plan to pay your employees, you don't know how to set up a proper variable comp or structure the equity or profit sharing in your sales guys, you're considering your comp is flat and you need to kind of find a way to improve it, we'll help you with that. You want to expand into a different marketplace, we'll help you with that. You want to find a C-suite executive and you don't know what's the right way to interview and what qualities to look for or what job description to put, we'll help you with that. These are things that we're going to focus on the small business owner side because that's a language that we speak comfortably. I hosted last year, I held an event called the Vol Conference. Tom Brady was at the event. We're holding this one this year at Palm Beach Convention Center. We're expecting nearly 10,000 people to be there. For 3.5 days, we talk purely business, strategy, growth, all of that, right? So the consulting firm is a big part of our pillar of what we're going to be doing. Product development on Minect, the Minect app. I don't know if you heard about the Minect app. It's grown exponentially. Quarter to quarter, we're up 780%. The whole thing with Minect is 8 years ago, I call a lawyer. I have a 7-minute call with him. He bills me for 30 minutes. I call him. I say, why are you billing me for 30 minutes? I have the number here. We had a 7-minute call. He says, minutes roll up. I said, not to 30 minutes, maybe to 10 minutes. He says, no, it's 30 minutes. I said, what do you charge by the minute? He says, no lawyer charges by the minute. I said, one day I'm going to create a website or an app that I get to pay people by the minute. So do you have a minute to connect? Let's connect. So whereas most places you email somebody and the response rate, a cold email is 1%, less than 1%, that someone's going to like somebody cold respond. Hey, Tucker, I'd love to talk to you about a job. What's the chances you're getting back to that person an email? Probably slim to none, right?
I don't do email, so yeah, pretty low.
Right. On Instagram, it's 3% response rate. On Twitter, it's 5%. On LinkedIn, it's 8%. On Connect, you're paying to get a response back. So you're paying a person $50, $100, $300, $500, and they respond back to you because you're respecting their time. Our response rate right now is 94% they get back to you, and over 50% of the time they get back to you within 24 hours. So we have the consulting, we have the product development, we have the media side. On the media side, I think the media landscape right now is wide open. It's filled with a lot of talented people, some that are driven by money, some that are driven by fame, a few that are driven by values and principles. We're driven by values and principles and a vision, and it's pure conviction. It's not like I need another nice car, I need another nice house, or I need another, however much money in the bank. No, we have a real vision, a real cause that we're going to go for 40 years. And I think at the end of the day, 10, 20, 30 years down the line, they're going to look at this thing and say, oh, wow, this is one of the most influential companies in the world. And that's what we're going to be doing.
So I can't assess the rest, though, congratulations. But I can sort of assess the media part of just having worked in it. And we are at a pivot point for sure. And all of a sudden you have all these independent voices. Some of them are bigger than the established voices because legacy media is obviously dying. But do those independent media figures come together at some point?
If they did, are you kidding me? I mean, that would be very intimidating if that was to happen. Because the market wants everything divided. That's what the enemy wants. The enemy wants everybody divided. They can bully and push around if you're divided because you can't build a household influential thing if you're divided. If we can bring everybody together, and Cicero said one of the problems why empires fall is because everybody wants to know who got the most credit. I did it. No, if it wasn't for me. And that's the challenge with sometimes people on the conservative side. Everybody wants the credit, right?
Yeah.
So if some of these guys can unite and work together, the enemy's not going to like that. That's going to be very, very scary for the enemy because they're not used to that. They're used to dividing and pinning everybody against everyone. It's an easy, art of war, Sun Tzu. It's nothing new. Divide and conquer easily. They do it all the time. But if some of these guys can set aside their egos and find a way where each can individually win and collectively win, game over. It's going to be a fun next 10, 20 years.
Patrick Bet David, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Really enjoyed it.
I will see you again.
I look forward to it.
Thank you. Oh, we're getting serious, baby. We're not dicking around.
This is big time. This is big time stuff here. This is legit.
It was funny. Like some of my earliest memories are my parents playing this game. And let me get my eyeglasses because I can't see this well. Ladies and gentlemen,
His sister kicked his ass.
Well, I just lost to one of my daughters. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.